I'm a fool to do your dirty work. Oh yeah. I don't wanna do your dirty work no more. I'm singing this song about Isaac because he constantly is making me do the dirty work. And we just hit 10,000 subscribers on No Politic Here, which is kind of crazy. So thanks for that. Already up to a quarter of my main channel. God, I just... this platform is bloody loving demonetizing me. Ooh, I hope you're all doing well. Hi, Tony Soprano Lover, I've just turned the chat on. Don't you dare behave like that. You got a shield? Why do you have a shield? Hold on, why have you got a shield? What's the shield? Hold up. That's crazy. Hello. Hello. Love that song. So do I. I know you love it. I don't know. I don't know if this is a new thing for admins, that there's been some kind of update. The fuck... Night the fuck up. Really? Wow. The shield is for managing moderators. But it hasn't ever... It's never shown for me before. It's shown off that you're a managing moderator. Mediocre. You gotta put this shit in. For your appointed admins, I think. Yeah, are you a managing moderator? I'd have to remove your standard moderator. No, it's just for moderators now. Warriors of the Kunzletaria. Yeah, look, it looks like the Red Labubu is holding the shield, which is such a beautiful thought. It's the first non-Epstein related stream in a while. I know, the West Bank stuff's crazy. It's also just kind of underreported in Western media. It's also everything. It's just... Yeah, I don't know. It's just like, yeah, it just keeps getting worse. No, I didn't make Trevor Trove Tales is not a managing moderator. He's a standard moderator. Also, I am so addicted to fucking Elden Ring at the moment. I cannot stop. I've been loving that shit. Oh, fuck. And now is the first time in months that I need to worry about it being light outside when I start streaming. Wow. Starmer the Discord Harmer. Yeah. Why are you still in the thing, Pasta Bus? Are you still in there right now? Hold on, let me just check. Are you still in the voice chat? What's the bit here? Why have you been in the voice chat for... What's that, like... Heading towards 4 days? 3.5 days, pretty much? Wasn't even aware of the annexation until I saw the stream title. It's not that they've, like, fully annexed it. It's that they're in the process of it. Like, the changes they've made are to, like, kind of fully annex the West Bank. Like, it could possibly happen pretty soon. Yeah. Don't worry about it. Okay. Right, we're going to do the Wordle here because it's taken a while to build up the stream right now. So, we'll just do it now. Plead. Okay. Level? No, I don't want to do that. Lever? No. Levit? Is that a word? Levot. Hey, Kunzlerites. Hello, Sword Les. That kind of makes me sound like a Blairite, or you guys like a Blairite, so I don't know about that. I'm going to try this. Veils. Okay. I'm trying to think of a word that looks like this. Might do something epic with the Epstein files. What might Thomas Massey do with the Epstein files? I haven't even seen that. There's just so much going on. Like, I was trying to learn a little bit about Japan, but we're just going to watch a video about that. I hope that Thomas Massey releases the whole Epstein files. I think it would really be good, but I don't think he will. What might he do? I hope he does do whatever it is. Yeah, Elab's also a standard moderator, so it's clearly that. Hello, everyone. Is it something like that? Telly? Is it double L? Yeah, it is double L. If it but it doesn't end in Y. Is it hello? I can't think of anything. Did Chris say Japan? Yeah, I did say Japan. Did you see Epstein emails about the alleged weird satanic rituals? No, I didn't see them. The problem with me is there's quite a lot of fake stuff when it comes to the Epstein files. Like, no one's mentioned this. Have you seen the alleged picture of him using the Kiswa as a carpet? Which, I don't know whether it's real, because the problem is if someone posts it without an actual link to the Epstein files, because I've been burnt. You guys know how I was feeling about the girls for the win thing. Yeah, it could be Jello. Is that how you spell it? But the Elon Musk girls for the win. But there's now this photo, allegedly, of... Hold on, I guess I can check. So it's EFTA 01201031. Oh my god. EFTA. Is it double... Have I put double F? Search. Hold on, I'll check it. I said it won't be an Epstein heavy stream today. I've got other news I want to cover, and we've done like 20 hours of Epstein. Yeah, I can't find this one. Does anyone know if this is real? It's cello. Okay. Mediocre. Have you seen the videos of the people fake playing the like the classical instruments yesterday? Have any of you seen that? The halftime show, the Turning Point USA one. The anti-imperialist socialist geo PRs here are just veteran pandering. Just leadership that cry about personal losses instead of what they did. The face they make when you compare them to ICE. Which people? From an American, the anti-imperialist / socialist geo. What's a GRPS here? Group. Oh, groups, you mean. Sorry. Yeah, I think a lot of them are like that. And I think a lot of people have this belief that Platner will represent something different, and I just find it really hard to believe. I don't know. How do I search Epstein files images? How do you search for a specific Epstein file? Epstein file number. How do I find the EFTA 100? How do I find that? Do you know much about Hong Kong? Finnish state media has a big write-up on the conviction of Jimmy Lai was the final nail in the coffin for their democracy. No, I don't know enough about China. I'm not a China head. I'm trying to learn more, and I'm learning more this year, and I will. But yeah, I don't know enough. I always get adverts about Jimmy Lai though, like constantly, and it's definitely undemocratic. But simultaneously, the people complaining about it are the same ones who've thrown democracy in the bin to protect Israel. It felt like a breath of fresh air. I don't watch the Super Bowl, and I was like, oh, I need to research it to prepare to pretend I do, but I can't. It's not my thing. No, I have not seen the fake instrument playing. Playing. Turning Point. I thought you'd love this. I almost sent it to you this morning. They were all fake playing their instruments. Turning Point instruments. Hold on, I'll see if I can find it. Charlie, this is not what Charlie would have wanted. They were like fake playing their instruments. Yes, Turning Point ascending. It might pull it up if it's ascending. Oh no. I searched ascending on Twitter, and once again I am vindicated that anything you search on Twitter is going to pull up heinous stuff. I boycotted it on accident. I boycotted it because I don't really care for things like American football. It's not my interest, I'm afraid. Hold on. A violin. Is this going to pull up, like, dodgy videos? Because I searched ascending, and it pulled up, like, just... Ugh. Here we go. Wait. Look. They didn't perform We Are Charlie Kirk as well. They're apparently just not really playing the instruments. And yeah, they just paid them to do this. Holy roller, you, good evening, my British nephew. Good evening to you. But they're faking playing the instruments here. Kid Rock was going crazy. I'm glad to see that a man this old could be doing such amazing things. I do like All Summer Long, but isn't Kid Rock a bit, like, creepy? Didn't he talk about an underage cool daddy cool? This is it. On my cell phone, I'm paid G. Can't call me, just page me. Young ladies, I like 'em underage, see. Some say it's statutory, but I say it's mandatory. Brilliant lyricism from everyone's favourite. We'll quickly do this. Their moments don't match the sound even a little bit. I mean, I have no idea. I can't play any stringed instrument. Well, I can play guitar a bit, but I haven't played in ages. And, yeah. By the way, guys, I'm a TikToker again. I had a TikTok video get like 200k views, so I'm now a TikToker again. And you all should respect me and say, well done, Chris, for your new TikTok video. By the way, we have a very good episode of the podcast, and... it's on a topic that I'm not sure many of you will know much about, but perhaps some of you are way more educated than I am. We had an episode on the Tamil genocide. Yeah, that's Kid Rock's lyrics. Yep. Well done, Chris. Yep, thank you. Thank you. You should all be congratulating me and saying, well done, Chris. You're one of the best TikTokers doing it out there. Well, thank you. Yep. I'm seeing a lot of love and respect in the chat, and that is exactly what I demand of any constituent. Yeah, the Elam genocide. We did it with Aruna now. Isaac kept telling me his name was Aaron, and so I believed it, but it's Arun. And it was very good. Osmosis Jones movie. What's the Osmosis Jones? I've never seen Osmosis Jones. Is it good? Family? No, this doesn't look good. It has Bill Murray in. I like him in Lost in Translation. He's in Lost in Translation, right? Yeah. I don't really know many of the other people in this film. Obviously, I know Lawrence Fishburne and Chris Rock. Chris Rock plays Osmosis Jones, the Australian police beating up a protester. Yeah, we're going to talk about that a bit. Okay, Advance. Oh my god, we've also got a... did you guys hear the awful news about Clavicular getting frame mogged? That was awful. The Clavicular being frame mogged, and then Peter Thiel bailing him out. By the way, that, as I've mentioned before, Clavicular is the most obvious addict in the world. The most obvious addict. Like, Clavicular is clearly constantly off his face and just roaming around streaming with like a bunch of little Groiper fans. It must be insane. Imagine that you're off your rocker and you just have to put up with loads of Groipers coming up to you and being like, yeah. No, Clavicular didn't kill someone. I think it was actually more of like a bit of a. I think it was a bit of a joke. Is cortisol spiking just becoming stressed? Because I'm cortisol spiking when any of you start talking to me. You upset me. Okay, loom, yarn, needle, scissors. Yeah, look at that. Royalty, bonus, advance, and there's one more. There's one fee. It's these. The Line, a city in Saudi Arabia. Yeah. Found in possession of. I think he was. I don't think it was meth. If I'm guessing, I think he's probably in possession of bag. To be honest. Also, I had a great tweet which did not receive the attention it should have. Have any of you seen this Elon Musk news account that constantly posts these AI images of Elon Musk saying, "Be honest, if I sent you a free Tesla phone right now, would you accept?" And then I requested that Grok add Jeffrey Epstein and 3 women to better reflect what Elon does at his factories, and it didn't bang in the way it should have. But Grok didn't answer me as well, which is particularly upsetting. And even though someone demanded it. Alleged city in Saudi Arabia. Yep. Maybe one day you can sit me down and show me how to spot fake string instruments. And also, the Elon Musk tweet is actually worse because it's pretty clear that Jeffrey Epstein brought 3 women for like Elon Musk to... I don't know, do something in the factory, and that's when he started liking Epstein more. But yeah, did Alan Sugar? Alan Sugar. People have been posting how Alan Sugar is a businessman, is like a billionaire, is unbelievable, because the stuff he has been tweeting is amazing. He tweets like this: a man has 9 sons. Each son has a sister. How many people are in the family? 12. Alan, I've been decolonizing polyamory, and I know that just because there are 9 sons, obviously they each have a sister, that means they have 10. But the 2 parents thing may not be the case. It could be 3, 4 parents, could be in a divorce situation, so it may not be a nuclear family. So that's actually the based answer here. I mean, I think also they've banned image generation. Sorry, I'll remove this photo. If anyone can find this, by the way, in the files, I'd be grateful to tell me whether it's real or not, because I don't know. It does kind of look real, but it's kind of hard to tell. It's him and Sulayem. Oh, wait. I wanted to show you some of his other tweets. Lord Sugar replies to all of these images and goes, yes. Yes, he actually really wants the Tesla phone right now. And look at this one. Is this a scam email? Notify case compliance x.com. Someone just responded, how on earth are you a billionaire? He's insane. Watch out for this. They ask you to click on confirm. What is a Lord Sugar? He's the UK's equivalent of Donald Trump. He's like on The Apprentice. He's a billionaire. I don't really know why he's a billionaire. He did business. He invested in stock and share. It is utterly ridiculous. Right, that's quiet. Discord is doing mass censorship next month. What censorship is it doing? I mean, I don't really do much on Discord aside from check what you guys put in stream suggestions. I saw one of you mention something that I didn't have a chance to check out that looked interesting about a robot thing involving robots, and you said, oh, if Chris sees it, I will see it. My father keeps sending me Dennis Prager videos. My God, yeah, there's someone who I used to know, and I was just looking through their followers earlier, and it's like they just follow the IDF and like Trump's war team. So began an electronics company, Amstrad. Yeah. He was also the chairman and part owner of Tottenham. He loves Tottenham. He talks about that. He's a billionaire somehow, but he is now also going senile and just tweeting all the time. Face scan and ID verification. Fuck, Knox, thanks for the $2. Will they just call the ceasefire over? Well, that's the thing. It's like a ceasefire doesn't really make sense because the normality of Palestine is not a cease of violations against Palestinians, you know. But I don't know. Right. I should probably finish this. Style. Oh, are these Lady Gaga songs? Poker Face, The Line, Way. I don't know. Approach near. You're right, it's style. Yeah. Near poker straws line. I don't know what that is. Draw near, draw poker, draw straws, draw the line. What's draw poker? I've never heard that. Hold on, I've been sent a video that I'm meant to watch. I've been told I have to watch it. By the way, is anyone watching the new Game of Thrones thing? It's actually really good. The latest episode of the new Game of Thrones thing is... I was shocked by how good it was. Like, it started off pretty well, but it has gotten so much better. The last episode, that episode the 7, was like just a fantastic film. A fantastic episode. Draws in a poker move. Okay. It is a good show. Yeah, it is good. Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Yeah. Not House of the Dragon. I've not seen House of the Dragon. I only watched Game of Thrones in 2025. I enjoyed it, though. I thought it was pretty good. Obviously, the tail off is unbelievable. I refuse to watch any Game of Thrones spin-offs. I'd recommend this one. I would recommend this one highly. I've not seen House of the Dragon. I've not heard of good things. And some of my family members who are like way bigger into Game of Thrones, like they've read all the books and stuff, or like at least listened to them and read some of them. They were like, they didn't like it at first, but genuinely, I think when you get into it, it's a really good show. And Small Bean. Who's a cork man? Who's the cook man? Have you talked about Morgan McSweeney getting cooked? No, I haven't. We'll talk about that later. I heard from other people it's really good. Yeah, the new episode has like 9.7 on IMDb. Have you watched the Fallout show? No, I've not watched the Fallout show. I really like Kyle... Oh, how am I forgetting his name? Kyle MacLachlan. Kyle MacLachlan is very funny. I love Kyle MacLachlan's social media presence. I really like how he matched David Lynch's Freak. Is worth watching for as long as Paddy... Yeah, Paddy Constantine's a brilliant actor. But I will watch the Fallout show. Also, I'm just complaining about my life right now. I slipped over earlier and I hurt my leg and it still hurts. We're going to talk about that later. Have you seen Bill Gates? Yeah, we watched that a couple of days ago. There won't be much Epstein stuff today. I've done too much Epstein stuff, and I know it's a pretty heavy topic, and it's not like the topics are getting better. Why do I think that you should watch it? I think that you should watch it because it's a lot less serious. It takes itself a lot less seriously than Game of Thrones. It feels like the stakes are way lower, and yet I'm still really invested in said stakes. I find it just a nice, like, kind of noble story about someone trying to do right in a world where most of the powerful and rich are not doing right. Also, by the way, fucking Adam Tooze did an episode of his podcast on Epstein. Most shocked thing, he was just talking about how, like, pizza was code, and he was talking about how so many fellow academics have met Jeffrey Epstein and how crazy that is in, like, the American academic world. No, I'm not saying that. I don't know what it means. Why do you keep saying you love Kyle MacLachlan Kale? What's Kyle MacLachlan Kale? Someone told me to... I've been told to watch this Super Bowl video, so we're going to watch this. So, Americans in chat, get ready.
About the political references in this halftime show that really got me. So, starting off, we're in the sugarcane fields of Puerto Rico, just diving right into the historical context of colonialism in the Caribbean.
I don't know much about the specific history of Puerto Rico, but what I will say is this is pretty standard practice right across the colonies.
The history of slavery in the Caribbean, the exploitation of our land and our natural resources for the economic gain of the empire. Now we're in New York City, Nueva York. And then Benito just waltzes up to go take a shot with who? Toñita. Who's Toñita? This is a real Puerto Rican woman who lives in Brooklyn and owns something called the Caribbean Social Club, which is one of the last standing Puerto Rican establishments in Williamsburg, which has been a hugely gentrified neighborhood of New York City, which was always traditionally Puerto Rican. She herself has almost been kicked out.
I don't like the crickets, I'm gonna say. This video may be good, but I'm finding it hard to focus with just like, where is this lady? Why are there so many crickets there?
Many times, but
leave the damn crickets alone.
Refuses to sell. She's an icon of fighting gentrification in Nueva York. The part of the show that hit us Boricuas the hardest, Ricky Martin.
I don't think I can listen to this.
Happened to us? What happened to Hawaii? A blatant call for independence and sovereignty and decolonization of Puerto Rico. And then we go straight into this. Actually simulated the problems with our power grid in Puerto Rico, which is a direct consequence of us being a colony, and the privatization of our power grid by the USA. Then Bad Bunny.
Kind of crazy, because a really interesting thing about Italy is perhaps the most interesting European Marxist of the early 20th century is Antonio Gramsci. I've only read bits and pieces of his work. One day I'll get way more into him, but Gramsci was obviously a very interesting character. A very, very small Sardinian man who had lots of ailments and issues. And I saw his grave the first day I ever met my girlfriend. We went to visit Gramsci's grave in Italy, and he is definitely very interesting. But one of the reasons that his thought is so interesting is because he was part of Italy, and Sardinia at that time was like a colony, a semi-colony, one might say, of Italy, and it really influences his thought. But I don't know if I don't know much about Puerto Rican Marxists.
Emerges from the fields carrying the Puerto Rican flag, but not just any Puerto Rican flag. This is the light blue Puerto Rican flag, which is the original colors, and this is the flag that they banned, and then we were only allowed to get our flag back when they changed it from light blue to that navy royal blue to match the blue in the American flag. But by waving this flag, this is our original flag, again referencing our own sovereignty.
I'm not sure.
We're still here, even though you're trying to colonize us and gentrify us out of our own island. Seguimos aquí.
Interesting. Obviously, these are references I wouldn't get. Bad Bunny gives Grammy, and he also gave his Grammy to Grammy. Wait, the US has just seized another oil tanker. Fucking hell. Bad Bunny didn't give his Grammy to a child detained by ICE during the Super Bowl, leading to a viral claim the recipient of the boy who'd been... Oh, so he didn't give his Grammy to the child. That's not true. Fucking hell. It's amazing how useless Twitter is. Yeah, and yes, I looked up the frogs. I enjoy them. They're nice. It's in fact, I'll show them. Here is the frog that you're all intrigued by. I have to zoom in because I hate the zoom in feature. There's a penny. Look how slimy the frog is. Kind of crazy. Okay, that's too zoomed in. Look at that lovely little frog. What a nice fella. He would like the crickets, probably. Being led by the US. What flags? Fuck the USA government. The child looked just like the boy taken by ICE. Yeah, apparently it wasn't. That's a cookie. A cookie? Is that how you say it? He's so lil. Yeah, that is a small slimy frog. Hold on, I'm gonna just post that I'm live on stuff. I'm live on YouTube. I'm live covering the... What am I covering? Covering Israel's moves to annex the West Bank, Cuba, Cuba and the oil blockade. Cuba blockade. I can't spell blockade. And what else am I covering? And Starmer potential collapse. So get in here. Whoever sees me post this on Twitter is just gonna see me say, like, just gonna see me looking at an image of a frog if they join right now, but we move. I need to record my I'm a fool to do your dirty work. Oh yeah. By the way, there's some guy on Instagram who just took my name from me, and it's very, very, very upset. I'm very, very upset about it. But he did send me a photo of him at a Palestine protest one time, so I really like that. I'm covering... What am I covering? Hello, everyone. I am live right now on YouTube. I am covering Israel's moves to annex the West Bank, the oil blockade on Cuba, and Starmer looking like he's teetering on the edge of resignation. So get the hell in, join. The link's here if you're seeing this on my Instagram. If you're seeing it on... if you're seeing it on TikTok, it's in the bio. That's how you do it. In one go. In one go. They can see, people can enjoy the frog, I guess. They can also listen to some great analysis of Game of Thrones. Watch it because I said it's good. Hold on. Hold on. Stickers. We're going to do a link to the stream, and then it's up here. I am going to get better at posting on TikTok and Instagram over the coming months. I can't throw it all away. They're so loud. What, the crickets or... Yeah, covering the frogs. Yeah, I'm covering the frog. Now you're all just posting frog emojis. I guess also I want to talk about clavicular frame mogged. I was actually really shocked when I heard that clavicular was frame mogged. And also that he was confronted by the Foids. He ran into... So, in case you guys hadn't heard, clavicular actually ended up running into the ASU frat leader and got brutally frame mogged by him. I mean, he has been frame mogged. Look at that. That guy's in good shape. Fair play to him.
Yeah, dude.
This is a tough day for clavicular. Can any of you imagine such a terrible thing happening to you? It's really, really sad. I'm turning this off because you're all talking, you're all distracted by the frog now. No more frog, the frog's banned. Oh my god, it happened 2 times. Clavicular got mogged a second time by the ASU guy. Wow. Look at that. Look at clavicular. Jesus Christ. Bro's off his face getting frame mogged. Imagine how difficult that is to take. What is this brain rot? I don't know. I accidentally manipulated my algorithm through 15 minutes of scrolling on Instagram. The shit going on my algorithm on Instagram is unbelievable. It's purely videos of like an AI cat going Allahu Akbar and then like people filming it as if it's real. I don't know if any of you are familiar with this kind of videos. Is it true that men with 6-pack abs are actually anorexic? I thought there was a whole documentary about that. Probably not. I would say you can have them without being in a situation where you're suffering from anorexia. I mean, I think a lot of people do suffer with issues when it comes to going to the gym, and like even myself, for the longest time, I was always convinced that I was really small and not muscular, which is an odd thing. What do his legs look like? I'm guessing not very strong. I was frame mogging the youths at the gym. I love going at the after school hours so I can frame mog people. But clavicular has been on a madness. I mean, fair play to the guy. I need a clavicular correspondent, someone to ring up. Maybe I'll ask Taylor Lorenz to come on the stream, and because she loves this whole clavicular stuff. This is the video with the most unbelievable language on. Clavicular was mid-gesture-gooning when a group of foids came and spiked his cortisol. Is ignoring the foids while munting and mogging moids more useful than SMV Chad fishing at the club? This is not real, by the way. This cannot be real. I refuse to believe that. And you don't need drugs to get a six-pack at all. Yeah, Clavicula doesn't even look that big, but then again, he's 20. So he's like 5 years younger than me. But I think if I bother to cut my body fat, I could frame mog a lot of people at this point. It's just the issue that I might get frame mog due to my height. I think I could quite badly get frame mog due to that.
Jeffrey Epstein's closest friend and collaborator, sentenced to 20 years.
Sorry, there's a Channel 4 Ghislaine thing, and we'll watch it because it's 2 minutes, and then we'll get into some news.
Jeffrey Epstein's closest friend and collaborator, sentenced to 20 years in prison for her role in his crimes. Now, Ghislaine Maxwell has testified to U.S. Congress. So who is she, and why did the convicted sex trafficker face questions about the case in the Capitol? Maxwell was once a glamorous British socialite, the daughter of the disgraced media magnate Robert Maxwell. She met Epstein in the 1990s, and they had an intimate relationship for years.
Seemingly, they didn't. Oh, I don't even know. Getting into Ghislaine and Jeffrey Epstein's relationship was very, very, very weird.
When that ended, they stayed close friends, and this is when she began helping to recruit, groom, and abuse underage women along with Epstein. The Department of Justice said Maxwell spent almost a decade targeting vulnerable girls, creating a network of underage girls for Epstein to exploit. She was also a friend of former Prince Andrew. Maxwell introduced the then member of the British royal family to Epstein in 1999. The Epstein files have revealed the extent of the association between Andrew.
I will say I am sick of seeing this photo.
And the sex traffickers. The files included images of Andrew with Virginia Giuffre, who said she was trafficked and abused at the age of 16 and had several sexual encounters with the former prince. Andrew has always denied any wrongdoing and reached an out-of-court settlement with Giuffre in 2022. After Epstein's arrest in July 2019, Maxwell went into hiding. The disgraced financier died in his prison cell a month later, while Maxwell evaded police for nearly a year before her arrest in July 2020.
How did she evade police? What was she up to?
In 2021, she was convicted of sex trafficking charges and other offenses and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Now, Maxwell has faced questions from members of Congress. The Democrats...
It should be illegal to have tattoos and be on the news. I think you should be arrested for that.
...organized the hearing after the Department of Justice and Deputy Attorney General said that following the release of 3 million documents, there would be no further investigations into third parties. Democratic lawmaker Ro Khanna published a list of questions he will ask Ghislaine Maxwell in the hearing, including seeking names of co-conspirators and up to 25 men who sexually abused minors on his private island, as well as asking if she or Epstein arranged or provided access to underage girls for President Donald Trump.
By the way, she's going to deny that, and that's how she's going to get out of prison. It's pretty obvious what the strategy and the meta has been.
Who has always denied any wrongdoing.
Like literally, the way to get yourself out of Epstein files trouble is just go, actually, Donald Trump is, awesome and had nothing to do with the files.
In relation to Epstein. The hearing was held behind closed doors, and Maxwell refused to answer questions so she doesn't incriminate herself.
Part of me does hate the whole stuff, and I think I'm guilty sometimes of doing it too. Sorry, I just need to block someone. Part of me feels guilty of doing it too, but also, I do think there's an element to be said, which I've tried to maintain over and over again, is people are hyperfixate on the child aspect of this, and of course, because it's such a grotesque crime, and it's just generally how our societies operate anyway, that we focus on it. But I'm not gonna lie, trafficking someone to your country where they're fully reliant on you because of the fact that you gave them a passport, because you control their entire life, that they don't speak the language properly, they don't really know how to get out. That is just as bad, and I think people need to understand that.
Maxwell's legal team denounced the hearing as political theater.
Why do I need to see these drawings of her as well?
But victims and critics of the government and law enforcement's handling of the Epstein case hope that by questioning the person most closely involved in his crimes, it could provide new information for any others involved, which is why Ghislaine Maxwell has finally been called on to testify to U.S. Congress.
Crazy. Why did someone say earlier that Thomas Massey might do something significant with all of this? Why did you say that? Oh my god, Jesus Christ. This is actually awful. Sorry, we will get into news in a second. This is just terrible. Clavicular gets hard-mogged midstream at the gym by his Chad security guard ranked #1 at ASU. Clav had to lock in, maintain frame and cortisol levels low under pressure to avoid aura bleed and protect his ascension rank. Real-time proof that composure maxing is mandatory when a higher PSL presence enters the environment. What is this? He is getting frame mogged here. I don't get this. I mean, yeah, I don't know. We'll stop doing that. Aren't in the files are losers, apparently. Yeah, that was an incredible video. The lady who was just like, yeah, if you're not in the files, then you're a loser. But I think she's always been that way. I've just seen a great tweet, actually. Bad Bunny did his best, but it's hard to watch sports at a time like this. Clavicular was brutally frame-mogged by an ASU frat leader. I mean, it's true. It's true. He got aura bleed, he's suffering from horrible stuff, and some of you are literally laughing in the chat, and I don't know what to say to you. He's been mogged in horrifying ways. When is the Clavicular podcast episode? Mate, I'd love to chat to Clavicular about politics. I assume the guy has brilliant thoughts and feelings about everything. Right, okay. We are going to move on to a couple of things, right? We're going to start with Cuba, and we're going to start with a video about Cuba by friend of the show who just came on the podcast, James Ray, who is a great TikTok. He had a great video about this, so we're going to watch it.
Cuban government offered to send her. Did you know?
By the way, no held mics, please. Bad. Don't hold your mic. You need to attach it to your shirt, please, sir. Or put it on a pencil or something, so it looks intriguing.
You know that after Hurricane Katrina, the Cuban government offered to send over 1,500 of its own doctors to the United States to help those on the Gulf Coast. The Bush administration said no.
Do you know as well something really fucking horrifying about any natural disaster? Anytime there's a natural disaster, undocumented workers make up the vast majority of what are called second responders. So they'll go in and clear the debris and things like that. And yet, you know, everyone's like, they're ruining the country. And yeah.
One example of many of the Cuban government doing everything it can to not just better the lives of those in Cuba, but those across the world. This is the same Cuban government that during the COVID-19 pandemic did everything it could to export as many doctors as possible across Latin America to help those nations bolster their own medical staff. It's the same Cuban government that has become renowned for training and exporting medical personnel across the world, including to areas like Palestine where they are desperately needed. The same Cuban government that decades ago sent thousands to defend the Angolan people against the forces of apartheid South Africa and other...
Yeah, which, by the way, if you want to know about that, listen to Blowback, because it is basically... For like, you know, a tiny island nation, it's just unbelievable, because it's such a, like... Because it's a decision that is so ridiculous in terms of... for the politics of Cuba, but morally it is such an outstanding thing to do. Like an outstanding thing to do, to risk the lives of people who went over to Angola to fight like halfway across the world and to ultimately break the back of apartheid South Africa. You know, it's like, it's a fantastic thing to do, but you look at how other people do it and no one else behaves like that.
Proxy forces backed by the United States and its allies. The Cuban government today is facing a crisis, and that is entirely the result of a decades-long U.S. blockade that is trying to strangle the island. The U.S. government has been enacting a decades-long blockade against Cuba in an effort to bring down its government and cause undue suffering for the millions of people who call Cuba home. Those regime change operations have only intensified under the Trump administration as he signed a new executive order that is threatening countries that might send oil to Cuba that the government desperately needs with increased tariffs. News is causing the Cuban government to prepare rationing plans for millions across the island who have already been suffering under the existing U.S. blockade and are now about to find themselves in even more dire straits. Truthfully, the US government would sooner see Cuba become a concentration camp than allow the people and their project to succeed. To do so, to allow the Cuban people to thrive, would be to show the world that there is a different path than imperialism, than capitalism, than suffering and exploitation that we can take up and lead. Cuba for
Yeah, I mean, Cuba is very impressive in the context of the world, because I heard someone mention mismanagement, and like, I'm sure there has been some economic mismanagement at certain points by certain people, and that not everything is done perfectly there. Yet simultaneously, it's just like, there's no one who's responsible apart from the US. I think donating to Cuban organizations is pretty hard, especially if you're in America. Is it even legal to do?
decades has been a shining example to the world of what is possible for a revolutionary project to achieve even in the most dire circumstances. It's on us around the world, especially those of us in the United States, to call to an end to this blockade, an end to these sanctions, an end to the attack on the Cuban revolutionary project and its people. I'd be lying to you if I said that what we're witnessing right now is anything else than a life or death struggle for the Cuban project and the nearly 11 million people who call the island home. It really is do or die right now, and it is on us to do everything we can to provide aid and support for those on the island. As always, Viva Cuba, Salamu Alaikum, and have a great day.
Yeah, I mean, they're technically on the state-sponsored terrorism list. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I was talking to this with a friend earlier, and we were talking about like, oh, it's a pity. Like, I've seen also people tweet this out as well. Like, oh, it's a pity the Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. And it's like, yeah, I mean, Soviet patronage was significant to Cuba, and I believe when the Soviet Union fell, that's actually the biggest crisis that Cuba has ever experienced, and perhaps the closest it's ever come to collapse, aside from maybe this, depending on how bad this all really becomes. But I think that when it comes to the case of like former left-wing solidarity, we like to imagine it more because there was obviously the Sino-Soviet split, the way in which the Vietnamese were targeted by the Chinese. Like, the last war that the Chinese fought was against the last war that the Chinese ever fought was against the Vietnamese, because the Vietnamese weren't the right kind of communists in the opinion of the Chinese. I'm not actually an expert on but it's and there was all of these splits, but still, one would like some kind of counterbalance to the US. And whilst it seems like China is winning out, ultimately it feels like they play a slow game and aren't willing to take major risks, unfortunately. But here's drop sites analysis. So if you don't know, Cuba is facing an immediate aviation and fuel crisis after authorities warned that starting February 10th, the country will be unable to refuel international airlines for at least a month. Through March 11, forcing carriers including Air Canada, Air France, WestJet to carry extra fuel or add refueling stops abroad. Yeah, I thought this was the case. So planes can actually fly into Cuba, but they'll have to stop in another Caribbean country if they want to go. And obviously, that's crippling Cuba's oil industry. Tourism industry. Of USSR. But if Venezuela gets attacked and they still exist, advisors and weapons would have been headed from the USSR to Cuba. I mean, potentially. One would have hoped so, but it's tough. Like, one would hope that there'd be this different thing happening, but right now, like, you just want some kind of counterbalance to the US. And yeah, I think you're right. If the Soviet Union existed, you would have more of a counterbalance than this, It really doesn't feel like there's anything to stop the US from doing this kind of crap. Although apparently the US really cannot invade Cuba, but I'm not sure that's much better than just fucking strangling it. And the reason that it can't invade Cuba is because Cuba's been prepared for, like, such a long time to actually fight against the US military, and they'd have high casualties. Same reason they can't really do anything about Iran, because if they do actually invade Iran, all of a sudden it'll be a mass casualty event. Can't have a socialist utopia on the US doorstep. You can't have anything. It doesn't even matter if it's a fucking utopia. You can't have anything that just chooses to exist outside the system of Western imperialism and to do things that are moral. Like, the US has what's a moral act that the US has undertaken without any justification that is also political or economic? Like Cuba supporting Angola, obviously it had political reasons, but ultimately it wasn't economic. It wasn't like a great thing for extending Cuban power and influence because it cost them money. It risked their lives in a part of the world that they got blowback from. And yeah, I do know Noah Culwin. I know Noah Culwin, and is it James? No, it's not James Ray. Noah Culwin and Brendan James were both in Cuba recently. It is apparently much worse than it has ever been before. Yeah, I mean, the situation is heinous, and especially because obviously Marco Rubio's a powerful, powerful guy, and Trump is such an inept idiot, and they want to kind of do away with as much as they can, like take out as many of these governments. And obviously there's bipartisan support because, look, Obama may have eased some things with Cuba, but Biden didn't change anything, and they ultimately don't want Cuba to exist because it's an affront to the notion that the US isn't perfect. State Department is actively saying they're starving out Cuba and they're running out of oil. Yeah. That is basically what it's about. Starve them, remove their ability to exist and live, and force them into a situation that's untenable. I also, in my understanding, a power cut, it's not really in my understanding. If you're constantly experiencing power cuts, it's just like a really difficult situation to deal with, and people don't like it. And I know what you're talking about, the new Palestine Action documentary. I'm interested to see what it's like. It's the Vice guy who interviewed Andrew Tate, who Andrew Tate was had this hate relationship with him. Okay. As fuel supplies dwindle, the government has rolled out sweeping contingency measures, including shortening the work week for state employees Monday to Thursday, shifting some university classes online, capping personal fuel allowances in several areas at just 5 gallons, indefinitely postponing fuel sales in Cuban pesos, closing and consolidating tourist resorts to save energy during peak season, sharply cutting bus and train routes, leaving many residents struggling to get around. I mean, the situation is terrifying for Cubans, and it's horrifying that the US can do this. And it is just like an act of war, you know? And just cutting Cuba off from the world for what reason? Apparently they're terrorists who collaborate with Russia, Hamas, and Hezbollah. Yeah, that's the problem. Like, Netanyahu's a bigger terrorist than any of those people, but, you know, the US isn't ready for that conversation, and most people aren't, because he's civilized and is in the world of Western politics. There's not really anyone making videos about Cuba. WLPG Local. What is WLPG Local? They've got a load of videos. The things I've been interested in, though, is like what's kind of caused this. And so seemingly, right, in all of the stuff that I could read, when the problem isn't that like they've been cut off from Venezuelan oil. If Cuba was just cut off from Venezuelan oil, they could probably replace it. And they've been moving away from it for quite a while. And Mexico's the biggest importer of oil. It's basically that since the action against Venezuela by the US government, the situation is just impossible. So here are the statistics, and I think these come from the Financial Times. Cuba has received just 84,900 barrels this year from a single Mexican shipment on January 9th, according to consultancy KPLER. That is the equivalent of just over 3,000 barrels per day, down from an average of 37,000 barrels per day from all suppliers in 2025. We can say that Cuba can run for 15 to 20 days if the January shipment is added to an estimated 460,000 barrels held in inventories at the start of the year, said Victoria Grabenberger, crude research analyst at KPLER. And here's a graph from the Financial Times about this. Look at that drop off. You look at how far that's gone. The blowback guys are on Breaking Points talking about their trip. Good video. Okay, interesting. In Lebanon, when I was a kid, we had power cuts in the villages like every 12 hours on and off. You could have a small generator for the fridge. Yeah, in my understanding, like when I worked at Middle East Eye in 2023, the Middle East hasn't experienced this yet again. But because of climate change, the situation can get so hot that like the power grid starts melting, and it means that you can't store any food, and all of this stuff ends up happening where basically people just struggle and can't live and can't exist. You know, the terrorist word only opposition to US dollar hegemony at this point. Yeah, and threatening the liberal world order. Like, it's ultimately that. Like, that's what matters to these people still. But, like, the situation in Cuba is dire. It is really, really awful. And it all really comes from this, basically, which is an executive order that didn't obviously released amongst the Epstein files, so really didn't get the attention that it needed. I'm sure people were reporting on it, bigger Cuba heads than I, but, like, this is the really significant thing. Listen to this. So this is Trump. I find that the policies, practices, and actions of the government of Cuba constitute an unusual and extraordinary threat, which has its source in whole or substantial part outside of the US to the national security and foreign policy of the United States. God, it is so crazy that I get a pop-up like this. Welcome to the Golden Age. Yeah, it's most certainly the Golden Age. That are already profiting from natural disasters caused by pollution. Capitalism is self-destructive. Yeah, and the crises that it creates are what sustain it, right? Like, we build companies that help us mitigate some of the, like a tiny bit, some of the issues of climate change. Like, and also, yeah, the government of Cuba has taken extraordinary actions that harm and threaten the United States. The regime aligns itself with and provides support for numerous hostile countries, transnational terrorist groups, and malign actors adverse to the US, including the government of the Russian Federation, the People's Republic of China, the government of Iran, Hamas, and Hezbollah. I am really interested, by the way, about the US's opinion on the Russian government and the Chinese government. Are they enemies? Are they friends? Because Trump likes to talk about his brilliant relationships with them. Hold on, I really need to blow my nose. Oh, I've got this thing where, you know, you can feel that you have something in your nose, but it won't blow. No way, yeah, there's no way Trump wrote this, you're right. It comes from Trump, but he didn't write this. For example, Cuba blatantly hosts dangerous adversaries to the US, inviting them to base sophisticated military intelligence capabilities in Cuba that directly threaten the national security of the US. Cuba hosts Russia's largest overseas signals intelligence facility, which tries to steal national security information from the US. By the way, I also love this notion of like, no, you're not allowed to do that. What do you think Israel is up to in the MENA region? It comes from Steve Bannon. No, I think that this is more of a Rubio thing. I genuinely think that Trump is really sick and doesn't really know what's going on anymore. I have no doubt that Trump would like this because he loves scoring victories like this. And one of the ways that he hopes he's doing it is through, you know, getting rid of a regime that's already been crippled for years by US sanctions and wants to finally take it out and score the victory. I do have terrible allergies, yes, but I don't know what's causing them today. Not to excuse Trump, but I also feel like that he is now a rotting corpse and everyone is exploiting him as much as they can. I mean, yeah, and the Cuban Americans are very powerful anyway at the best of times, and Rubio himself is incredibly powerful, and it looks like they're gonna try and do this. They just can't invade, so it's really hard. I don't really understand, like, what the position is of, like, of what they hope for, aside from a situation like Iran, where they hope to provoke some kind of internal revolutionish thing that can be taken over by hostile foreign actors. You know, that they can airdrop in Marco Rubio and Destiny to take over the country and rule it as a liberal libertarian utopia. He is a senile king who just signs all the papers they give him. Yeah, when a Cuban American comes knocking and tells you, hey man, get yourself some Miami coin or whatever the hell they were trying to get up to over there, Trump is in. Force them into an energy deal. What you mean you mean force Cuba into an energy deal? They want to open them up to economic exploitation. That's all. Do you not think also they want to score the victory against one of the last hangovers of an era that the US claimed to have won completely and probably thought that the collapse of the Soviet Union would have destroyed? You know, I don't think that we can discount that. And yeah, the sex pestiny emirate of Cuba. Cuba continues to build deep intelligence defense cooperation with the People's Republic of China. Cuba welcomes transnational terror groups such as Hezbollah and Hamas, creating a safe environment for these malign groups so that transnational terrorist groups can build economic, cultural, and security ties throughout the region and attempt to destabilize the Western Hemisphere, including the US. Cuba has long provided defense, intelligence, and security assistance to adversaries in the Western Hemisphere, attempting to thwart US and international sanctions designed to enforce stability of the region, uphold the rule of law, and safeguard the national security and foreign policy interests of the US. Just amazing that the people actually buy into this, that this is anything what it has to do with it. Sorry, 1 second. Oh, I don't know what's causing this. You know when you got a tickle in the back of your nose? Not even the throat. They're basically pretending this is the self-destructive communism. Yeah, I mean, it feeds into that narrative of like, look how bad things are in Cuba. Oh my god. Cuba is so bad. I wonder if Fox News are reporting on this.
Is a big story.
Fox reported on this 6 days ago. Let's see what the right-wingers are saying.
President Trump says high-level efforts are underway to make some kind of a deal with Cuba, and he is using oil to gain leverage, moving to cut off supplies to ramp up the pressure. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum joins us now. Mr. Secretary, good to see you again out there.
It is utterly ridiculous. Why can't they invade? Why can't they invade? By the way, terrorism. Meanwhile, pro-US hijackers operated in Cuba and lightless assassination. I don't know if the first bit is why can't they invade and you're like joking because of, by the way, terrorism. Thanks, Thomas, for the donation. I mean, why I was saying is they can't invade is because it'll just be too costly. Like, they would probably be able to, you know, the US can basically destroy any country through major air power, but ultimately they're going to face resistance. Like, you know, as weak as the Cuban government may be, they are gonna face, or like, you know, not at the point of strength that it once was. They are gonna face resistance, which will lead to the killing of US soldiers, and Trump has promised no more foreign wars. Yeah, I know, I need to take antihistamines, but this time of year it feels like I don't normally need to.
They're on a very snowy North Lawn. Looks a lot like your home state today.
Absolutely, a beautiful sunny day here. We love the snow, we love the clear skies, love the sunshine.
So the president says
this guy's crazy looking.
He's negotiating a deal with Cuba's leadership. Listen to how he put it.
Cuba's a failing nation. It has been for a long time, but now it doesn't have Venezuela to prop it up. So we're talking to the people from Cuba, the highest people in Cuba, to see what happens. I think we're going to make a deal with Cuba.
I think we're going to make a deal with Cuba. So nobody knows what this deal looks like. What can you tell us?
It is kind of crazy that this is just something that we have to accept in the world right now, that the US can just continually sanction these people, that the US can continually create a situation in which life is untenable and people just act as if that's normal, that there's no reprisal. And I know people will be like, that's the way the world works, unfortunately. And like Western governments, the EU is cowardly, and China isn't willing to undertake a major action that kind of threatens or like jeopardizes its own interests in the region. But it's just like, how is this acceptable? How do people look at this and kind of just be like, wow, that's awesome, and let's allow them to keep doing this? And by the way, I didn't ignore your advice. I just don't have any antihistamines here.
Well, with President Trump, you know, whatever deal that he strikes is going to be good for the American people. And this is just another example of President Trump understanding that energy dominance leads to peace abroad. It leads to prosperity at home. And energy dominance allows energy diplomacy. The ability to take a country like Cuba that was in cahoots with Venezuela, with their corrupt government, providing security forces to Venezuela, providing other assistance to that, and then in trade, getting Venezuelan oil sanctioned with President Trump now enforcing sanctions. Unlike prior administration, the Biden administration had sanctions on Iran, Russia, others, and then we just turned we turned all these countries into China's discount gas station, and then these countries kept on funding wars and fueling terrorism. With President Trump, when he puts sanctions on, it means something, and then that creates negotiating leverage, and good things happen for America.
Yeah, so the strategy...
I really love how simple Fox News is. My email's just available on my profile. You can just click on my profile. It's like chriskunzler1@gmail, I think. But yeah, just listening to this guy just going, it will be good for the US when we do these things is so wonderful. Imagine if your world operated like this, that you literally just understood everything that was going on by virtue of just good for US, good deal, yay. And that was what you accepted as political analysis from a man who you have noted looks like a fucking salmon.
Is for the president to turn off the spigot of oil flowing from Venezuela to Cuba, and appears to be having the intended effect. Here's an analysis from Fox Noticias' Andrea Linares. Listen here.
According to analysts, right now, Cuba has about 15 to 20 days of oil supply left.
Wow.
Let's just remember, they're just running dry. They lost that lifeline from Venezuela. It's really...
I also love what simplicity and lack of levity that this is spoken about. Is that the right word? Levity? Is that serious? Does that mean seriousness, or am I being stupid? The treatment of a serious matter with humour or lack of due respect. Sorry, yeah, be treated with such levity that, like, if oil supply runs dry for Cubans, that's going to be, like, disastrous for their just hospitals for people who exist and live there. Is just unbelievable.
Turning into a catastrophic situation. Of course, we don't want a humanitarian crisis, but some Cuban Americans here are actually hopeful that this could lead to a total collapse. Yeah.
So we've seen some of the protests, the government-organized protests.
And also, by the way, I just find that so repugnant, how disconnected you are from your own country that you just hope everyone there suffers so you can go back and spend your riches there.
In Cuba, they're blaming the United States for the hardships, but if you turn off the lights, the populace has a habit of getting very upset at the people who are in charge. Is this potentially a moment where the regime could fall?
Absolutely it is. President Trump, 100% correct. This was a regime that was propped up by Venezuelan oil. The oil came into Cuba. They used some of it to keep the lights on. Other oil that was coming into Cuba was sold. That's where they were generating cash to keep their corrupt government going. And so, again, control.
I also love how you have to listen to Fox News and they just go, yeah, it's amazing because their corrupt government still kept going. And it's like, you live in America. You have your most corrupt president in history. And everyone in your administration was just friendly with corrupt pedo Epstein.
Control the oil, you control the money, you create leverage for negotiating. President Trump, of course, understands 90 miles from Florida. Understand a Russian aircraft just landed there recently, resupply potentially from Russian military. This is not activity we want to have happening at our doorstep. President Trump has vowed to keep this hemisphere free and safe. And so, again, great steps by the Trump administration.
You know, there's been a number of times since 1959 that the Cuban diaspora here in
the Cubans need the missiles to start the crisis.
The United States, predominantly in Miami, have seen it, potentially heady days ahead as they thought, well, maybe the regime's going to fall. When Castro died, they thought maybe it'll fall. There's been some other crises that they thought maybe the leadership will finally abdicate or get toppled or whatever, and maybe there will be a transition to representative democracy. We certainly haven't gotten anywhere near that yet, and I'm wondering.
I also just love how, genuinely, from libs to hard writers, they think that they actually use this democracy argument when Trump is cozying up to every authoritarian and literally jokes with Erdogan about him stealing elections.
In the president's talks with Cuban leadership, could representative democracy be a potential outcome here? And what would that mean not only for the people of Cuba, but for American investment in that island in the years ahead?
Well, with the change in government, the upside for investment, the upside for the Cuban people is dramatic. This is a country that has all the potential, say, of a Florida. They've just had the wrong government there, and we look what's happening in South
All the potential of a Florida. Amazing.
Florida, 90 miles away, one of the important growth areas of our country. Miami really becoming the capital of, in many ways, the capital of South America. And that kind of prosperity could come to Cuba. President Trump, I hope the message is getting through to all the Cuban people that President Trump is on your side as well. And there could be a very, very bright future.
All right. Well, a lot of people will keep their fingers crossed, and we'll keep an eye on it. Secretary Burgum, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Brilliant. Sophie, I actually want to watch exactly what you're talking about, the Mark Warner video, because, by the way, this is true. This is true. And I read there was a great Jacobin piece, I can't remember by who, and they were talking about it. I don't think that the US would have struck Iran then. I think what they would have said or they wouldn't have been able to restrain Israel had they had all of the equipment and forces in the region. Yeah, I know. These people can only think about turning. They can only think about turning places into Florida, and it's amazing, and investing in them. They don't give a shit how many people die if they get some faux vision of democracy. Iran is safe for now. For now, I mean, the amount of US build-up there. It's just Iran is a quagmire as well, because first of all, the US government approval rating is in the toilet. Like, it's absolutely terrible. And Iran will, like, categorically end up in a situation where the US will lose a lot of troops, where US interests in the region will be struck. Also, did any of you see, apparently, evil Iran has stolen a bunker buster from... Evil Iran has stolen a bunker buster bomb. I can't believe that. Listen to this. So loads of people have been reporting this, and apparently it's true. Unexploded Tomahawk or bunker buster in Iranian hands. Iran's foreign minister just confirmed there are unexploded US munitions from the strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. That is B-2 GBU-57 bunker busters or US Tomahawks. Reverse engineering is about to start. So basically, evil Iran have stolen this kind of stuff. Although, if it's a bunker buster, right, I don't know what you can do with it, because if you have a bunker buster and... they're quite difficult to drop, basically. That's why they require, like, a B-2 bomber. Okay, right, let's listen to this.
There have been a number of think tanks who have published photos of what they believe is evidence of Iran reconstituting and rebuilding its nuclear program that the U.S. bombed 8 months ago. Are they rebuilding?
When we struck Iranians' nuclear capabilities, our military did a great job. It was not totally obliterated. So that standard the president himself set. And Iran, has been indicated in public documents, is trying to reconstitute. What I fear is that we don't have the ability to bring the full power of pressure against Iran. A few weeks back, when the Iranian people bravely were in the streets, and there might have been a moment, we couldn't strike because the aircraft carrier that was usually in the Mediterranean was off the coast of Venezuela, doing the blockade there.
On top of that,
This is categorically true. An overreaching empire that doesn't have the ability to project power fully in the way that they claim they do. Yeah, obviously, you know, they can still fuck up people's lives. And I guess enforcing a major blockade is really, really... Like, enforcing a major blockade over Cuba is difficult, and to ensure that you can try and collapse Cuba alongside doing everything, alongside trying to collapse Iran, trying to collapse everywhere. Because why Israel will have categorically wanted to strike Iran? They are the people who want to strike Iran as well, the Israelis. It's really... The Americans are interested in kicking in the doors, and there are people like Lindsey Graham who are fanatics and are like, oh, I've got to do it, we've got to do it. But ultimately, it's an Israeli thing. Like... When these people try and defend bombing Iran, they're like, we need to protect our allies in the region. They mean that they need to protect Israel. One might say the UAE, but yeah.
For that as well, we were unable to bring the full force of pressure of our allies in Europe against Iran, because at that very same moment, President Trump was disrupting NATO with his Greenland play. We are stronger when we use our allies, when we have our full military capabilities in region, and that military is getting stretched. As good as we are, as the president gets engaged in activities all over the world.
You support the diplomacy underway now?
I support the diplomacy, absolutely.
It's kind of amazing. I love seeing the resistance to Trump from he's a Dem, isn't he? This Mark Warner guy. He's a Democrat. No? Am I wrong? Or am I being stupid? Yeah, he's a Democrat. It's really, really, really amazing seeing the resistance from someone who is apparently worth $215 million. They're really fighting against the Trump regime. Riddle me this, Batman. Why isn't Puerto Rico another capitalist fiscal paradise then? Because Marco Rubio's not from there, and Marco Rubio's just utterly brilliant. I think that that's the hard truth. But the US is definitely overstretched, but that doesn't mean that it can't just destroy the lives of millions of people all over the world, as it just loves to do, with having to run their ships around where they can't quite project power all over. Kind of reminds me of the last 15 years of the Soviet Union. Is he just taking money? Why would you, at this point, why would you even be taking money from Israel? Mark Warner. I've accidentally just called him Narc Warner, which is perhaps a good name for him. APAC tracker. Let's have a look. Why are you even taking 361k from APAC at this point when you're just like a multi-millionaire, like a centennial millionaire? Also, Thomas, I've got to say thank you for your incredibly kind support as always and helping to make streaming possible. But yeah, like just insane that you can get that much money even when you're this rich. Or that you would need that much money, and why you'd take that much money when you're already this rich. Let's have a listen to David Adler.
David Adler is the General Coordinator of Progressive International. It's a network connecting and supporting progressive governments and parties, and he's at the Al Jazeera Forum in Doha. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time to be with us. I want to ask you what's happening in Honduras, first of all. We were just saying that Nasser Asturi was sworn in as Honduras' first president, a man who had been endorsed by President Trump. How valuable is an endorsement by President Trump in Latin America? How do Latin American countries regard that?
I wouldn't focus so much on the endorsement as the full-scale intervention of the United States in this Honduran electoral contest, a dynamic of which many people are describing as an electoral coup. One that deserves not just the attention of the international community, not just the condemnation of the international community, but actually sustained diplomatic action to think about the types of electoral fraud and intervention that were conducted, really old school 20th century kind of colonial forms of intervention.
It's kind of crazy as well that the US just meddled in Argentina's elections by giving a huge bailout on the basis solely of the guy being a political ally of Trump, of Milei being an ally of Trump. Like, that's it. That's why they intervened.
That risk repetition across all of the Latin American continent. Now, let's review those forms of intervention. One was mentioned already, Trump pardoning narco dictator Juan Orlando Hernandez, whose crimes were not just drug trafficking to the United States, that was his formal charge, but basically presiding over a dictatorship that began with the military coup in 2009 against then President Mel Zelaya, and continued on through vote buying, vote rigging, and two successive electoral contests in 2013 and 2017 that led to the re-election of the National Party, out of which Papel Orden, Tito Asfuda, is now president. And we can see the fruits of that electoral intervention, of that electoral coup, if you will, already starting to play out. We can see that in the form of Honduras realigning its interests away from solidarity with Palestine towards total subservience to Israel. We can see that in the trip to Mar-a-Lago, away from a sovereigntist one to one of submission by Honduras to U.S. American interests, as well as we can see it by the first letter signed by the president-elect to re-enter the World Bank's arbitration courts and put, again, Honduras at the will and whim of U.S. corporations. So it's not just that the word of President Trump carries weight across Latin America, it's these sustained interventions, whether it's sending $20 billion to back Javier Milei and bolster his electoral prospects in the legislative elections that Argentina had just last year, or it's military intervention in the case of the capture of President Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores on January 3rd, as well as what we're seeing now in the total asphyxiation and the siege of the island of Cuba that the U.S. is leading.
I mean, siege is the only apt term. Lemon Mint Cat, thank you for the $2. BBC, Starmer live on BBC, about to get ousted or something. Remember Teal, private city in Honduras. These people are doing crazy, crazy shit. Wait, sorry to detract. What's Starmer doing? Is Starmer actually live right now? Hold on. Let's see what he's saying. It'll probably be boring as fuck. It's Keir Starmer talking, but... what's BBC saying? Hold on. BBC News. I know he was meant to address the nation today, but... BBC News Live? Where's Starmer? Starmer address. I don't think he is live yet. I don't think Starmer's live yet. So we'll wait for that.
Really to the silence of the international community. So I think it's important to take Honduras in a broader context of what's being articulated now as a Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine, seeking new, renewed, and renovated forms of asserting U.S. dominance in the hemisphere at large.
So if that continues, that level of U.S. involvement continues and deepens with other Latin American countries, is there a concern that those countries are essentially going to become ultimately vassal states of the United States, that they're going to lose control of their own destinies, and every decision that they make, or most of them at least, the significant ones, are going to have to be run past the White House first?
I'd say two things about that. I'd say first, Latin America as a continent and as a project never succeeded fully to emancipate itself economically, politically, culturally, and socially from that Monroe Doctrine. It has been the case in Honduras as elsewhere that U.S. ambassadors try to dictate foreign policy in the region, that U.S. corporations try to dictate the terms and conditions of...
Yeah, those ships are fucking terrifying, and what the US does with them are even more terrifying.
Labor markets and environmental regulations and the like. What we're seeing now is the reassertion, the renovation, the rejuvenation of that doctrine, and its most explicit expression that we've seen really in decades, if not centuries. So we don't have to guess what the intentions are of the Trump administration. Someone like Stephen Miller will say it very openly.
Well, I will say about guessing what the US is up to. To be honest, there are different motivations amongst the wings of power. J.D. Vance is the most non-interventionist guy out of all of them. He doesn't really love US intervention anywhere. They all did love Venezuela because it was like an epic, quick, swift military operation, and so for them, it's something that they can be like, yep, this is epic. But in the case of Iran, he's obviously like, no, because US boys are going to die over there. I wrote Hillbilly Elegy, and the US boys are going to die over there, and you can't have the US boys dying over there. But Stephen Miller wants to turn Venezuela into a paradise for deporting people that they deem illegal and sending them there and getting rid of huge amounts of Venezuelans from America and also their allies countries, by the way, as well.
It is utterly ridiculous.
Their allies in South America will benefit hugely from removing Venezuelan immigrants. It's something that they want to do. It's something that they often propagandize as well. So that's what Miller wants. Marco Rubio is genuinely someone who is motivated by a desire to take down, to take down and bring down to bring down Cuba and defeat communism and go back and return there in, as someone noted, in his tacky golden throne or whatever the hell. We have a copy of Hillbilly Elegy in my library, and I've never seen anyone check it out. I'm surprised. Re-regime change. At best, Cuba will be decimated by austerity and wealth gap between former diaspora, corrupt oligarchs, and the rest of Cuba. Yeah, and I don't think it's going to improve the lives of average Cubans at all.
Our goal is to recolonize the hemisphere, to be the ultimate arbiter of what counts as legitimate or illegitimate forms of political authority. And the risks are, as you mentioned, the total subversion of Latin American sovereignty and the total destruction of the basic sacred principle of self-determination as enshrined by the UN Charter and international law more broadly. And
The only thing I feel about self-determination, by the way, is self-determination was literally set up by a guy who believed that the KKK had a point. So, well, it wasn't set up by it, but the American conception of it was largely defined by Wilson's 14 points. And Wilson thought that the KKK were like a good defensive organization when they were first founded. He did condemn them at later points. He was also someone who was just an extreme racist. He was from the South. He was particularly upset by what had happened there.
It is utterly ridiculous.
But yeah, Ghost ATW, enjoy the membership. And Hell for Michelle, thank you so much for the gifted membership. And Thomas, also, I forgot to say thank you for the donation as always. Did Russia send Cuba medical aid via Mexico? I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. I know that Mexico's the main country offering like a huge bit of support to it. But by the way, as well, like the other point about like different opinions on this, Stephen Miller wants to bomb Mexico so they can target the narco labs over there.
Seeing that play out all over the continent, and especially in places that have electoral contests coming up. A key example is Colombia, entering now a high point of frictional electoral contest with legislative elections in March and then presidential elections later in the spring, where the U.S. is actively stoking fears, anxieties, and depicting President Gustavo Petro as kind of enemy, if not an agent of Russian influence in the region, for example, and beginning to bolster more reactionary candidates. And that's why we can see the scramble of a lot of these Latin American progressive leaders, whether it's Mexico's Claudia Sheinbaum or Gustavo Petro or even Brazil's Lula da Silva, to try to reestablish more effective and more balanced, dignified bilateral relations, really before it's too late, before the hammer of tariffs gets to get imposed, before armed intervention may come their way, before these boat strikes, for example, continue on both the Pacific and the Caribbean sides of the U.S. border to try to lead a new war on drugs and using that banner of national security and the specter of narco-terrorism to assert its primacy, its supremacy over its Latin American neighbors.
David Adler, General Coordinator of Progressive International, thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, I mean, the situation for Latin American countries. What's the saying about Mexico? So far from God, yet so close to Mexico. So far from God, too close to the United States. Poor Mexico, so far from God and so close to the United States. I mean, same for any fucking Latin American country. It's so far from God and so close to the United States. It is actually a very apt quote. Another day of ELAB not being lucky. I think ELAB's got to accept that the membership is just denied to her by the YouTube gods. Trump is such an animal. I mean, they're all animals, and I think once again we shouldn't pretend that this is just something that pertains specifically to, pertains specifically to the Trump administration. And I know you don't actually think that at all, Director Ripper, but I think that that's a point to make, that like Trump is doing the shit that the Dems have licked their lips about. The fuck who said that? I don't think they're talking trash. I think the point is that they're saying that the United States is the devil, basically. And, that they suffer because they're far too close to them. But yeah, it's, I don't know. It's just this situation in which, it kind of feels like one would hope that this change comes, but yeah. By the way, Ghislaine Maxwell has invoked the Fifth Amendment and is refusing to testify in front of Congress. Coma briefs as Ghislaine Maxwell prepares for deposition.
News. No new answers this morning from Jeffrey Epstein co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell. Maxwell just appeared virtually before a House Oversight Committee. This was a closed deposition, but Congress members tell us she invoked her Fifth Amendment right and refused to testify. Now, you may remember Maxwell was found guilty.
It is crazy that you can do that. I understand that it's like a part of American democracy, ostensibly, but I feel like when you're Ghislaine Maxwell, I don't think you should have the Fifth Amendment, not gonna lie.
Guilty back in 2021 for her role in helping Epstein sexually abuse teenage girls and is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence.
As expected, Ghislaine Maxwell took the Fifth and refused to answer any questions. This is obviously very disappointing. We had many questions to ask about the crimes she and Epstein committed, as well as questions about potential co-conspirators. We sincerely want to get to the truth of the American people and justice for the survivors. That's what.
Like, I do appreciate all of this. And, like, you know, Ghislaine Maxwell should be made to talk and discuss what she and Jeffy were up to together. But simultaneously, you guys have the files unredacted. You know what's in there. Just why can't you just release them? You literally have a document that mentions co-conspirators. Just make it public. So PDF files get the 5th, but nobody being tortured at Gitmo does. Yeah, I mean, that's true. That's 100% true as well. And also, you keep asking, Frankie, about how does Reform's good polling reconcile with the general dissatisfaction of the Brexit? I mean, I don't think there's much sense in Reform's policy. Reform's policies aren't really thought out, and they're very contrived and bizarre, and they don't actually, they're in no way actually going to bring about like the revival in the economic world that they continually promise is going to happen. Yet simultaneously, I think by the time we're at the elections, I don't think Reform is going to be polling as well. I think the right's going to be split by all of the more racist parties.
This investigation's about.
Now let's go live to CBS News Justice reporter Jake Rosen. Good to see you today, Jake. We know Maxwell pleaded the 5th the entire time, so what happens now?
Well, what happens now, Representative Comer said, is that they're going to continue. Again, this investigation, Mugo, and to remind our audience, is separate from what the Department of Justice has been doing. James Comer has requested a number of files in his capacity as head of this oversight committee that's been doing its separate investigation into Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's wrongdoing and any potential co-conspirators that have not yet been charged. We know that Les Wexner, who was the former CEO of Victoria's Secret, is expected to be brought in for a deposition. Comer also said that the Clintons, Hillary and Bill Clinton, are expected to come in at some point in the next month for further depositions after they kind of had a separate back and forth. Again, there's not much that Congress can do here. We know that also, Mugo, today, these lawmakers have the opportunity to go to the Department of Justice and go look at the unredacted.
On Portugal, is the guy who won actually like that exciting of a left-wing candidate? I didn't have a chance to look into it today. But yeah, I mean, I do fear that the slopulism, as you've just termed it, will work in the UK, because I think we're just a racist island country who continually want to blame immigrants for our problems and not really confront anything or talk seriously about what the problems we're facing in our country are. But yeah, I don't know. It's just tough. I'm a foreigner, but I probably overthought that, lol. Yeah, I mean, I think the problem with overthinking it is just that, I think the problem with thinking about it is not much of this all really makes sense when it comes to Reform. Like, anytime a Reform person is questioned about anything, they don't look good, but the media doesn't do it enough because they like Reform, and many of them are pally-pally with Farage and all the others around him.
Files, over 3 million, that have been released by the Department of Justice in the last couple of weeks. At the same time, though, there's just not many levers for them to pull going forward, and Maxwell's attorney said a couple of months ago that his client would plead the 5th if she was not given some kind of immunity by the White House to go and do this kind of congressional testimony. As we know, she was also moved to a lower security prison, and Robert Garcia, who's a Democrat who leads the Democratic coalition on this committee, said that he wants to find out answers to more of that and why she was moved to that prison after she met with Todd Blanche, who's the second in.
By the way, I think it's really obvious. It's because she literally licked Trump's ass and was like, oh, Trump never did anything. He was always a gentleman. Bill Clinton wants to testify. Thanks to the 2200, I fear that he won't testify. I fear none of them will testify, I'm afraid. I think all of them will just plead the 5th. I think that's going to happen.
Command at the Justice Department last year, and they had a very extensive, long conversation that was released. I think you can clearly see the calculus made go to the White House for potentially more protections, not to Congress, where there isn't exactly as much to gain for someone who's already behind bars and in prison like Ghislaine Maxwell is.
Yeah, and I also want to ask you about this because Maxwell has, as you said, she's already been convicted. She also spoke with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche several months ago. So why this tactic now, the pleading the 5th, and also being willing to do the deposition too?
Well, it certainly allows her, as many people who go before congressional committees do, to say that she did it. She cannot be held in contempt of Congress for this after kind of putting it off for a while. But by pleading the 5th, she's essentially stonewalling this committee, where the Justice Department also hit kind of an end, which was not getting the answers that they necessarily wanted to hear. If you go through what Todd Blanche questioned her on, it was a number of questions probably similar to what congressional leaders were going to ask today. Any ties between Donald Trump and Epstein that were not previously known, any potential co-conspirators, co-conspirators. But even in those conversations, Maxwell did not go into new detail about what additional information she knows. Again, this is kind of this long-term and long play by her and her legal team to potentially see if they can get any kind of either commutation or
Oh,
pardon.
come on. Why are you showing that photo of fucking Jeffrey Epstein? Come on. Of all of the photos you could have picked, Epstein playing piano. Apparently he was a pretty good piano player. I've heard that someone said that he was actually a decent piano player. I read someone say that he could actually play the piano pretty well. Clinton will have an Epstein pulled on him the day before testifying. Someone said Hillary might talk to get revenge on Bill. Isn't it really that he was having an affair with Ghislaine Maxwell as well? Chris is right. They have nothing to gain from testifying. Fucking demons. Yeah, of course. I mean, none of these people want to see justice because it's connected to so many around them.
In exchange for more information, of which lawmakers and...
These are odd photos. Like, why are you showing him in a fucking party hat? Like, show him in a jumpsuit and just have that there.
Potentially the Department of Justice believes she has. That just hasn't materialized, Mugo. And again...
What is this one?
And it's kind of one of the issues here with this congressional committee is, the Clintons might as well say the same thing. Les Wexner, a longtime business.
I'm just objecting to all of them. Like, I don't need to see Jeffrey Epstein wearing a bathrobe.
Associate of Jeffrey Epstein might also say the same thing. You can get called in front. Very hard to resist these subpoenas when they come from Congress, but you have to give them new information? Not necessarily. And again, this hearing was supposed to be potentially all day. It barely went a couple of minutes as we saw lawmakers come out right away and said that she pled the fifth on every answer.
Okay, Jake Rosen, thank you so much. And starting today, Congress members are now able to view unredacted versions of the evidence in Epstein's case. So far, the Justice Department has released more than 3...
Wait, they have access to unredacted. Are they able to... Does that mean that these people who have access are able to talk about what they see in them? Because if you have unredacted, there is going to be a huge amount of evidence and imagery that is in there that is incriminating of Trump and also his co-conspirators. So one would hope that that starts to come out.
Million documents. CBS News congressional reporter Torian Small is live on Capitol Hill for us today. Torian, can you break down what's happening and how this release is working?
Yeah, so Mugo, like Jake laid out there, the Department of Justice is allowing lawmakers to take a look at those unredacted files. This comes after a bipartisan wave of criticism over what many lawmakers are calling the slow walking of the Trump administration for the release of the files as part of the law that they passed and the president did sign into law, effectively calling...
I mean, more evidence would change one thing, right? More evidence would change one specific thing, which is the fact that there would basically be the names could be publicized of people, from a redacted list of the names of people who were involved. I mean, we can guess many of them, like, Les Wexner and all these others, but one would hope that they'd be pushed out.
For this to be released in a timely manner. Of course, the response from the Department of Justice was that many of this had to be redacted, and it took time as there are millions and millions of files, and they did it for the protection of some of the people interested there. That still didn't sit well with quite a few lawmakers who were concerned about the motivations behind the Trump administration's decision to redact some things included in these files. As we heard from Thomas Massie, the Republican from Kentucky congressman who's part of the Freedom Caucus, who has been at odds with President Trump when it comes to this matter. He is really the first lawmaker we heard from who is accepting this offer from the Department of Justice. He says he will be viewing the files today. He's also been polling his audience on Twitter, asking specifically what areas should he take a look at, and he, according to his post on social media, will be doing so. Whether or not we could get a full readout from his review is to be seen, as again this is redacted files, so I'm imagining he would be looking to avoid any legal troubles by disclosing what has been essentially been sealed, Mugo.
So what? We won't get anything new because they'll just be like, oh, it's going to cause legal troubles. It's going to cause this. It's going to cause that. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough because you hope that more's going to come out, but I really don't think it. I think it could also end up not coming out, unfortunately. Congress doesn't really have the ability to punish anyone for the illegal redactions or withheld documents. It seems the law didn't have an enforced mechanism. Amazing. It is just truly unbelievable that we have to put up with this. Just put up with just not being able to know fully what's going on. It just sucks. Also, have any of you seen how fucking fake how much... By the way, I think this is a major problem on all social media platforms, especially amongst right-wingers. I think it's worst on X, and I think Israel pays for it as well. I think this is just an indication of how fake all of this really is. So, apparently the Turning Point USA had 18 million views already for their halftime show, and Bad Bunny had 2.2 million in 1 hour. I mean, picking that as a choice, but that was so obviously fake. I don't know if you all saw the XQC video, XQC Super Bowl, like where he's in the chat and he's like, oh my god, chat, I'm diving in the chat and I'm not seeing anything. And also, by the way, the music is incredible. Have any of you heard the song? It's like, I just want to catch my fish and drink my beer.
Yo, is the chat live chat?
I just want to catch my fish, drive my truck, drink my beer.
I just want to catch my fish, drive my truck, catch a beer. Wow. But just look at this. Look at this. Look how many look at this. A chat with 5 million people in is apparently frozen. Yeah, it does sound like I want to kiss my fish, catch my beer. I know I'm getting it wrong. I'm getting it wrong because it's just so beautiful. We're watching Buffalo Wild Wings. Hello? Hello, chat? Is anyone here? Is anyone here? Like, if XQC did that in any chat, they'd be, like, pushing, like, oh, apparently YouTube's chat broke, most likely due to the volume of chat engagements. Yeah, okay, yeah. I believe it. Thousands wouldn't. I still don't believe that it would just go to a dead standstill. I reckon it would just go way too... It would be, like, really inconsistent in how it actually worked. But, I don't know. It's just, to me, it's like... there is no way that 5 million people were watching that dog shit watching that dog shit show. Like, I don't think people were watching it. Also, by the way, in the UK, this is still causing problems. Have you ever heard the song God Made Guns? No, I haven't.
Charles, how long have you known about Andrew and Ashley?
God, by the way, this is you guys in America are talking about like the slave mindset, the peasant mindset. This is the this is the biggest indication in the world of the slave mindset. Like, how can you love the royal family so much to just be totally unwilling to confront anything to do with this? Like, to just confront of, hey, there is categorically no way that Epstein could have been fucking hanging around at the Buckingham Palace around Andrew for all of the time, and the royal family and their intelligence didn't know. But no, you just have all of these idiots who are like, the king helps us! The king helps us! He's a shining light when we're struggling! The king is so good! I love him! Don't you dare insult the king and ask him about his pedo brother! Just, I want to see their reactions. Like, how is your reaction just, oh, shut up. Yeah, Isaac just posted. He did just post. It's just like, ugh. Having to watch just people defend the royal family, it's just like, oh, come on, lads. Come on, lads. Do something else. This is enough. But by the way, here's Charles and Jimmy Savile. Prince Charles and Jimmy Savile were really good friends. How on earth do you raise £10 million? That's how the king talks. Yeah. Savile. Jimmy Savile, Prince Charles.
It's horrible.
Hold on, I want to see if Jimmy Savile, Prince Charles. There is like he was a good friend of Jimmy Savile's. Oh, it's a one-ear special. No, thank you. Okay, I can't find any videos, but yeah, I don't get how people put up with this guy and act as if this is normal. How many nonces became knights? Well, certainly this one did. Certainly this one did. How late in life? They will have known about the rumors, because by the way, he was told over and over again, hey, or his mother, the Queen, was told, do not knight Savile because Jimmy Savile is dangerous. Jimmy Savile has these problematic allegations against him. Do not knight him. It'll cause major issues for you. And yet they did. They did knight him over and over again. So enjoy Charles's discussion of architecture. I wouldn't put up with any discussion of Charles in a positive light. Charles is just awful. He is just repugnant. We're going to look at Herzog. Are we? There was something that I kind of wanted to watch, but just 1 second. I am actually really sorry. I really don't want to do this, but I need to go pee. I'll be back in 1 second. I'm clicking the wrong thing. I'll be back shortly. Hold on. I'll be back to discuss Israel and stuff. Fuck, I almost spilt my water. Oh, right, I'm back, and I didn't spill my water. Okay. Right, we are here, we are live and alive, and I'm causing issues already. Stop spamming damn frogs. The great there was actually, I guess one thing we'll quickly talk about is Anas Sauer before we talk about the anti-Herzog protests. I kind of wanted to talk about this because it looks like Keir Starmer might be, well, So this is the leader of Scottish Labour, and he's Scottish Labour, Sanwa, sorry, excuse me, and he's called for Keir Starmer to resign.
Clear that I have to do what's right for my country, Scotland. This isn't easy, and it's not without pain, as I have a genuine friendship with Keir Starmer. But my first priority and my first loyalty is to my country, Scotland. And I am not willing to sacrifice Scotland's NHS, our schools, our communities, our towns, cities, villages and islands to a third decade of an SNP government. That's why the distraction needs to end and the leadership in Downing Street has to change. It is so obvious that we desperately need change in Scotland. And in 3 months' time, the opportunity to get rid of a failing SNP government is one that is too important to be missed. We cannot allow the failures at the heart of Downing Street to mean the failures continue.
I genuinely do not believe that Sawa is less popular than Keir Starmer. It is not possible to be less popular than Keir Starmer. Anyone who is still defending him is just insane. Genuinely just insane.
Here in Scotland. Because the election in May is not without consequence for the lives of Scots. We have an NHS crisis where too many Scots can't access the treatment they need and when they need it. We have a housing
It's Anas Sarwar. He's the leader of the Scottish Labour.
Emergency, with more than 10,000 Scottish children homeless right now. And we have too many young people not feeling safe at school or on our streets or missing out on the opportunities they deserve. And we have an SNP government that is addicted to secrecy and cover-ups with devastating consequences.
But yeah, he's called on Keir Starmer to resign, which is, I mean, it's not good for the old Keir Starmer machine. And it looks like maybe Keir Starmer is teetering on the edge, although all of his political allies have come out. But quickly before that, if you guys want to just have a quick insight into British politics, here's what Farage is telling us that is going to fix the UK.
Can't go on the sick because you've got mild anxiety. But it is an attitudinal change that Britain needs. An attitudinal change to hard work rather than work-life balance. An attitudinal change to the idea of working from home. People aren't more productive working at home. It's a load of nonsense. They're more productive being with other fellow human beings and working as part of a team. Can't go on.
It's just like, we'll fix the country by making you work from home. It's just unbelievable. Genuinely just unbelievable that this is what people like. Someone had a great tweet about this that was just like, the Reform Party's platform consists of back in my day boomer slop. This is who it is for. I think that that's a really good point. This is what they're hoping and hedging their bets on winning on. Old people who have no connection to people in the country anymore and are just like, yeah, you know what? Oh, it's great. It's great if we don't go to work and if we all have to go into work. But yeah, you know, it's just amazing. Also, by the way, I finally found out what that person meant by Massey taking the nuclear option. It's him reading the names publicly of people accused. Does this dude know how hard people are working? I can't remember. Hold on. I can't remember what productivity per hour in the UK looks like. How to fix the UK. Hold on, I want to see if I can see this. The problems of Britain. Yeah, British productivity has been falling since the 2000s. The rest of the UK is not. No productivity. So London, basically the problem in the UK right now is that London is way too central. It's way too, well, of course it's going to be central, but it's way too much of like anything happening in the UK just happens in London. It's like our only financial centre and every other city isn't working. And so young people are just like, yeah, I have to go there. I have to go to London, and you're punished if you work anywhere else in the country. But no, apparently, yeah, everyone just needs to basically go into work again, and then everything will be fixed. Ugh. Like, I can understand why, to some extent, that there's like, oh, being in the office when you're young and learning how to work around other people might be important. But for older people and stuff, I don't think you need to be in the office constantly. I don't think everyone needs to be there. I think people can clearly work from home fine. I personally enjoyed being in an office, but I know not everyone does. And so, yeah. But it looks like if Starmer isn't gonna go, it'll be based on this. So all of his political allies have come out and say exactly the same kind of crap. Keir Starmer won a massive mandate 18 months ago for 5 years to deliver on Labour's manifesto that we all stood on. We should not let that distract us from our mission to change Britain. We support the Prime Minister in doing that. Like, look, I know some of you are from this country. I know some of you are actually from the UK. And so you understand this. Keir Starmer is bad. He's not as bad as people we've had previously, but he is, like, in terms of his actual policies and behaviour. But the reason I think he probably will end up, the reason that I think he is just so bad is ultimately because he pretends to be a leftist. Like, that's the problem. He pretends to be this kind of guy who is, you know, interested in changing Britain, and then he does nothing. He maintains the status quo. He odiously defends genocide. He clings to Israel. He does nothing that's actually meaningfully left-wing, and yet we're just meant to believe that he's okay and that he's awesome. It's just, yeah, it's just repugnant. And yeah, it's just like less bad makes okay, and it's like, this has not been less bad. Less bad cannot be just unequivocally backing Israel. It cannot be maintaining the two-child benefit and all of this stuff. It's just like, yeah. Here's Ash Sakar talking about it. Navarra Media. Navarra slop alert.
Keir Starmer is like one of those inflatables you see dancing outside of a car wash, right? There's nothing that actually animates him that is his own. He doesn't really have politics. He doesn't really have beliefs. He outsourced that to others in the service of basically getting into power. And this is where Morgan McSweeney comes in. The reason why I think Keir Starmer was reluctant to get rid of McSweeney until the very last minute is because he's genuinely thinking, how can I be Prime Minister without this guy? I don't believe in anything.
I'm certainly not calling for leadership change. I don't think the vast majority of Labour MPs are. And I think the people in this country...
The other problem for me of why I don't really give a shit about regime change in the UK government is because who goes in? Some other right-winger? Is that it? Is that what we get? Some other, you know, Labour right-winger? Wes Streeting? Palantir-loving NHS privatiser? What do we expect? What do we want?
She wants stability economically and politically at this time.
So I find Ash Sakar more appealing than Aaron Bastani. But yeah, I think a lot of this stuff. Didn't someone say that they? I don't know. I'm not enough of a Navarra head to really speak that negatively. I just know a lot of people don't really like them, and I've seen some tweets that I don't like. But off the top of my head, I can't tell you exactly all of the tweets that I disdain and dislike from them.
I disagree with you a little bit about what people want. People don't want stability if it's serving the interests of a walking dead Prime Minister, which is what Keir Starmer is. What people want is competent leadership. And quite simply, people can see that it doesn't make sense for the person who advised that Peter Mandelson be appointed ambassador to the US, that he should have to resign, and Keir Starmer, who made the actual appointment, doesn't. And that's the point that you made, Henry, about what was in the public domain at the time that decision was made. In 2023, the FT reported on an internal JP Morgan memo, which spilled the beans on the proximity of Jeffrey Epstein to Peter Mandelson, the fact that Peter Mandelson stayed at his apartment when Epstein was in prison. And yet, apparently, Starmer still saw fit.
I'm also, though, of the opinion, by the way, and this is a personal opinion, and I think it is a well-grounded personal opinion, and I sometimes feel like it may come across as bitter and self-inflating. Like, look, I am not a massive YouTuber by any means, but I have certainly been a significant voice on Palestine, someone who people are interested in hearing from and talking about. I know one person who works at Navarra, like, whereas when it comes to Americans, I've spoken to Daniel Denvir, and he's coming on the podcast, someone who's significant, a significant person who works at Jacobin magazine, pretty significant there. I've spoken to Hassan, I've spoken to all of these people. And yet, Navarra, like a British institution, have showed no interest in me. I know one person from there who I do actually like, and I like the content of a lot. But ultimately, for me, I think, like, it's really tough in the sense of not feeling that this is just some insane clique. Like, not even just TV. They have these online platforms, Navarra and stuff. They have the opportunity to bring someone like myself on, someone who's a young, up-and-coming leftist content creator in the UK, and they don't take it. Whereas every single right-wing institution, any person with power on the right, will just over and over again platform any idiotic little right-wing slop creator online. Whereas British media don't do that. Turn left are smaller. I like Lewis Aaron a lot. Lewis Aaron's a great guy, and I think he's trying to build something. And I believe his name is. I've met the guys from Turn Left, and they're both very nice. Curtis too. Like, I think it's Curtis Daly. I don't know if that's his actual name, but Curtis Daly on Twitter. He's good. And I think that, like, yeah, I don't know.
To appoint him. He's now saying, oh, Mandelson lied to me about staying at the apartment. How could he? It was in the newspaper. After Mandelson was appointed, he was doing a profile with the FT again, and he was asked about Epstein. He told them to F off. Now, that seems like a man who felt a sense of invulnerability and impunity. Why would he feel that? Because, quite frankly, other than some excellent journalists at the FT, and I would also say people who aren't considered part of the mainstream, like us at Navarra Media, we were the only ones talking about it. No one else gave a hoot. The BBC didn't, The Guardian didn't, The Times didn't. And now that, the cow has fallen, the butchers...
Shakespeare wants to stream with you about Ilan Pape. What about Ilan Pape? What does Shakespeare want to talk about with Ilan Pape? I'm not like... Ilan Pape taught me a couple of modules, and, I've spoken to him, and I think he'd probably recognise me. I'm not 100% sure, but because, Ilan's an older gentleman who meets a lot of people, so perhaps he would have forgotten me. But maybe he would, well, no, I think he probably would recognise me. I mean, we've communicated, he's taught me, he supervised one of my modules, but I don't know what she'd want to talk about. And also, I'm not like the world's biggest Ilan Pape head. But thanks for the donation, Thomas.
Have multiplied.
Just very briefly, number 10 on and off the record, what are they saying? I think they've said that Keir Starmer's not going to resign.
Yes, they have, very clearly.
I think it's very worth saying that at this point,
they say
isn't
he's upbeat and confident.
Oh, God, he's
as
toast.
Well.
Yeah, I do think, I don't know, all of these people who come out and say, like, all of these people coming out and saying, we love Keir Starmer, he's brilliant, it's all fantastic. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. But Jeremy Corbyn's close ally, Diane Abbott, is going, it was great on television earlier.
2019, Labour's worst election defeat in terms of MPs. 2024, huge majority. People say Morgan McSweeney was the man who transformed Labour's prospects from disaster to victory. Do you give him some credit for that?
This idea that McSweeney was an election genius actually ignores the figures. The truth is that in 2024, the Labour vote was more or less the same as it was in 2019. What actually happened was a Tory vote split, and half their vote.
I really do wonder whether Jeremy Corbyn would have won the election Starmer did, though, because part of me is like, people would be done with the whole notion that, like supporting Palestine is in any way like majorly anti-Semitic, that, Corbyn was a monster for doing that and times had changed. But for me, I don't know. I don't know. I think he probably would have, because obviously the Tory party was so dog shit, and it's at a point where, like, the media couldn't have weaponized in the same way that they would have. I know he got more votes, and I know he would have brought more people out to vote. But yeah, it's interesting. Also, the guy who was like asking for my email sent me an email saying, "Reply now, I need you urgently." And I responded within a minute because it was just when I was going to pee. And he was just like, he just hasn't responded.
It went to reform. So, and when people say, oh, why has our support collapsed? It's because we only ever had a third of the vote in the first place.
He's not going to look like much of a genius, is he, if his position leads to the toppling of our Prime Minister. Diane Abbott, thanks very much indeed. Just
29.
Yeah, I mean, also, on the topic of... Yeah, I do think that the anti-Semitism accusations did crush him. And I think we exist in an environment now where a lot of people understand how ridiculous that is. Like, a general public at large understand much more how ridiculous it is to pretend that... To sit there and pretend as if, like, oh, you know, Corbyn was an anti-Semite. And I guess Brexit was so long ago now, it remains to be seen. But yeah, people don't bring this up enough. Labour politicians just keep repeating that they have this massive mandate and they're rarely corrected. They do have a massive mandate, though. The amount of seats they won is absolutely huge. What's the difference? Why are you saying that it's not the case? They do have the massive mandate to do things and they don't do anything with it. Or are you talking about their electoral victory not being that significant? It was just like a major collapse of the Tory party, really. Like, that was an election where it was genuinely impossible almost for Labour to lose. Like, you would actually be way more shocked if Labour had lost than had they not. I genuinely don't know if it's possible. But it's like, to this day, Keir Starmer still appears at like a Friends of Israel project. It
is utterly ridiculous.
To restore public trust. Greg, thank you for the $9.99. Polly Tony B on Channel 4 News just said Mandelson happened because of money in politics, and to restore public trust, donation from trade unions to Labour need to be banned. Yeah, no, brilliant answer. I think we just ban trade unions donating to Labour, and that fixes anything and everything, and that all of a sudden all will be fine, and that the trade unions are the problem. Thanks for the donation, Greg, and thanks for letting me know. Also, by the way, just quickly, here's what Thomas Massey says he's going to do.
I'm ready to do that if the victims want me to. They believe that the best way to get justice is to force the DOJ to release these names. I've already read one name in a committee with the FBI director there. That's Jess Staley. And again, he may or may not be guilty, but he's been accused by these victims, the lawyer tells me. And there are other names. I don't have them in my possession, but if the victims want to give them to me, I've expressed that I'm willing to do that. But again, the best way is to force the DOJ to release those names on those 302 forms.
I hope he's not just talking a big game. I really hope he's not just talking a big game.
Everybody.
Yeah. I am really hoping that this is something that he actually does, that this is something that he actually undertakes. Navarre joined in on the anti-Semitism smears, did they? I don't really know about that, I will say. I know Owen Jones was a little involved in that as well, wasn't he? By the way, this is the crazy video we were talking about the other day. This is one of the most insane videos if you've not seen it.
Knew everybody that was very powerful. So, like, if you were on the scene and you were powerful, like, to be honest, like, if you're not in those files, it would be an insult. Because it just means that you were a bit of a loser.
I didn't know who Lady Victoria Harvey was. I never heard of her before, but I was so shocked at the...
That is such an insane statement. One of the most unbelievable defenses you will ever see and hear. Are unions in the UK good? In the US, they're counter-revolutionary and negative. I mean, I wouldn't say that entirely, like, some unions, unions are always fantastic. I think unions provide, like, individual protection in jobs so that you can't be mistreated as bad as some bosses want you to. And it's noticeable that hospitality is by far the worst industry I worked in terms of abusive bosses, because most of them are really without union. And you're right, it's a crazy POV and a jump. But like definitely some like, what's the teaching union? Is that Unite? Because I feel like at times those things are kind of a little bit manipulated, and yeah, that they don't really do as well as people kind of hope.
Callousness of her remarks. I don't know if she's ever met these survivors. They've been in my office, 1,200 or so of these girls who were raped before 18. They are some of these people who, as grown women, have broken down in tears. They were recruited in junior high and high school, and then powerful rich men abused them, raped them. And for her to say that, oh, it's some matter of prestige to be affiliated with Epstein, it's a callousness that goes to the anger people have with the governing elite, not just in America, but many of the governing elite around the world. You know, it's not for me to tell the British how to do their business, but I would think the royals have a lot of explaining to do.
Yeah, I mean, he's completely correct, but it's just sad to watch the peasant mind just tell us over and over again, you shouldn't even question them. What's the one for universities? Is that Unite? Your party live streams have like 100 chatters. Wow. Nice. Shout out your party chatters. Right, just listen to this. This is Keir Starmer talking about the Labour Friends of Israel. I don't know when the actual video is from, but just listen to this.
We need to be more vigilant.
Like, just listen to this. Are you wondering, is there any reason, like, sorry, how is this still ongoing? This is so unpopular and ridiculous to just sit here and talk like this, to just behave like this, to continually defend Israel. It is unpopular, it is morally repugnant, and it is just disgusting that we have to put up with this.
We need to be more vigilant in asserting British values and call out those who want to divide us, whoever they are. Now, obviously, that goes for any form of extremism, whether that is extreme right ideologies and their hatred of Muslims, or Islamist ideologies and their hatred of Britain and Jews.
I really love that part. The extreme right just don't actually have problems with Jewish people. I didn't know that until Starmer spoke. And yeah, once again, define British values. Because what, if it's about democracy, then being at a Labour Friends of Israel lunch, it is insane, you know? If you're at a Labour Friends of Israel lunch, that is not democratic. An organisation that pays you money to basically defend Israel, that pays you trips to go over to Israel.
But it also means we've got to fight a more insidious, passive tolerance. I mean, it's not hard to support the just cause of a Palestinian state without being anti-Semitic. Millions of people do that, and I'm one of them. It is the policy of this government and this country to recognise Palestine. And yet, on the marches that supposedly support that cause, you will often see clearly racist banners, anti-Semitic hate, a fact that leaves a minority community in this country scared and intimidated. A community which, let us not forget, suffered the most recent terrorist attack on these shores.
It's just unbelievable. It is unbelievable that this is still something that is going on, that they still talk like this, that he's like, oh yeah, the problem is anti-Semitic hate. Motherfucker, Israel is slaughtering people, just non-stop mass slaughtering people right now. I wanted to show you this video, which is kind of like just indicative of the everyday cruelty of the Zionist project. And it's just so fucking shocking. Hold on, let me show you. Watch this video. Just watch this video. Look at that. Just like a fully armed up Israeli soldier just kicking a Palestinian child off their bike. No accountability. And these are, like, once again, we'll be told over and over again that, like, Jewish people are suffering some kind of oppression that is in any way analogous to this. I mean, having been going most weekends for years, never seen a single anti-Semitic incident, many Jewish folk too. I hate the gaslighting. But it's also that I think this is the most important reason to make. It is not anti-Semitic and hateful to support the Palestinian cause if you support it on the basis of hoping that a genocidal project ends, that a project of extermination who drew inspiration from the Americans and other settler colonial projects are in any way analogous to hatred of Jewish people, then you are a fool. You are a liar. There are obviously people who are anti-Semitic who talk about Palestine. They're people who do it online. They're not people who are at these protests. They're not people who are seriously talking about Palestine and are trying to get justice. They're people who grift around the subject, who offer no care or understanding of Palestine. I really actually wanted to watch that, yeah. Like, by the way, the other question to be asked here is, who are these people? Are they British people who go over to Israel? Are they American people who go over to do their little service in the genocidal militia and attack Palestinians? Is that what this is?
5 years ago, I investigated an Israeli...
But let's have a look. Oh, you're right. I wanted to see this video, Sophie. I wanted to watch it in my own personal time, but let's just watch it anyway. Oh my gosh, you're seeing what I'm watching on stream, off stream. Oh no, you're not. You're seeing that I've been watching Rosinia press conference, Chelsea versus Leeds. We're not watching that, to clarify.
Propaganda app that turned harassing people speaking against the genocide in Palestine into a game with a leaderboard and everything. The app's main purpose was to astroturf their way into silencing anyone against the regime through dogpiling, harassment, or boycotting their business alongside accusations of anti-Semitism. I organized a campaign in that video and created a website with instructions on how to report the app, as it is against App Store policy to promote activity like harassment, and thankfully, quite a lot of people did report it, though I'm sure most of the total reports had nothing to do with my investigation. The app was taken down, but I've kept an eye on their socials and web presence since then, which is how I figured out that they were in the early stages of bringing it back, and why I decided to cover this again before they started attacking people, so that if they do, people are ready to prevent their sick harassment campaigns again. And a month ago, the new app was launched, but we'll get back to that in a moment. The original app was called act.il, and its purpose was to direct people...
God, what is that photo of Herzog? Sorry, what is that Herzog
called
cartoon?
Act.il.
Look at that fucking Herzog cartoon. Jesus Christ.
And its purpose was...
Why have they given Herzog an earring? Did Herzog have an earring? No, not Herzog, Herzl, sorry.
To direct people to flag, report, and reply to nearly every criticism of Israel. The app functioned as a means of astroturfing, organized and deceptive government-backed public relations activity that falsely creates the impression of an organic and spontaneous grassroots campaign. These harassment campaigns were effective because they would tell people where to respond, what to respond with, as well as offer a bunch of pre-made memes and talking points.
By the way, someone went on about how apparently loads of the Zionist debaters on TikTok literally learned from this specific thing. That's like, this is how you debate about Palestine and shut down every talking point that's like handed out to them. And these people like on social media are getting paid to do this like pro-Israel slop 100%. They get free trips to Israel, all of this crap.
And in true fashion, they were unhinged enough to make it into a little game. This is how it worked. The app would refresh a few times a day with new missions. A mission might be signing a petition against a company that posted in solidarity with injured or killed Palestinians, accusing them of anti-Semitism for speaking against Israel's actions. Or it could be a link to a video showing the IDF indiscriminately killing civilians, with a template of what you should reply with to discredit both the source of the video and the victims themselves. Maybe you download one of their memes about human shields or why it's okay to bomb a hospital and post that. By completing missions and dogpiling whatever random person they wanted to silence or attack, users would earn points, unlock badges, and get their points added to their score, which is ranked on a leaderboard. When my original investigation was happening, it was still the case that support for Israel was more often framed as a progressive stance, and any opposition to Israel was seen as right-wing anti-Semitism. Over the last few years, that illusion has begun to dissipate, but obviously not entirely. And this is because the State of Israel and the think tanks built to uphold it are often both very adept at maintaining that illusion of victimhood and working really hard at it. Many of
By the way, I also think one thing I will say is I don't actually think that since October the 7th, Israel has been successful at doing any of this. I think the main issue is basically that governments just continue to enable this shit. That it is still that governments still just wander around, just supporting it, just like yep. You have to love Israel. You have to love Israel or else.
These think tanks are professional propagandists, and for years now, Israel has led a massive propaganda, disinformation, and harassment campaign coordinated through the media, social media, and smartphone apps. Let's check out what you would see when you first opened act.il.
But libs sincerely do think that because most British Jews are criticizing Israel is anti-Semitism, they actually think they are doing anti-racism. Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you that there are many of these people who talk this way, who believe that kind of stuff. I don't doubt it that there are many of these morons who do actually feel like, oh yeah, you can't criticize Israel, or you shouldn't ever go against Israel fully, because that's not what Jewish people in the UK want. And it's like, I really don't give a shit whilst Palestinians are being exterminated and dispossessed, and you're never going to be able to change my feelings about them by invoking the suffering of Israelis and the blowback and consequences of the Israeli occupation, or just anti-Zionism and claiming that it's anti-Semitism. I'm sorry. It's like that Robert fucking Kraft ad that's like, two-thirds of Jewish people have experienced anti-Semitism, but it's like, what does that mean? What constitutes anti-Semitism of what they're talking about, you know?
There's a welcome video, which is just incredibly chilling in its bubbly, excited tone.
Hi everyone, I'm Maya, and I'm here to welcome you to act.il, the first pro-Israeli grassroots online movement.
It's not grassroots.
First pro-Israeli online grassroots movement. That is actually amazing. That is an amazing admission. I mean, it's also not grassroots, as they're saying.
If it's a government think tank telling you what to do, that's not grassroots. Maya, you know this.
There are many groups that try to delegitimize Israel online. And now, you will have the tools to counter their efforts right in the palm of your hand. We're going to show you how, by using the act.il app, anyone can become an activist for Israel, anywhere, at any time. Welcome to the act.il app. Now, time for action. When you open the app, you will be directed straight to the home.
I fear that this is gonna be copyrighted. No, it can't be because he's uploaded this. Oh, wait, maybe it is. Ah, fuck it. I'll edit out.
Homepage where you will have two ways of reviewing the mission. You can either scroll through all of them on the mission tab, or choose your missions according to different platforms. When clicking on a mission, a description about the specific mission will show up, where you can learn more about the action needed.
So you go through and they have a bunch of different social media platforms with active missions, and a mission is to report or reply to a post.
I love how, like, Israelis claim and Zionists claim that they're suffering so massively, but the missions they want you to do is just post slop on the internet. That's what you need to do.
So there might be a mission with a link to a tweet, and it'll say, report post for comparing an incomparable situation, which I'm not going to lie, is not one of the options on Twitter's reporting system.
If you see a mission and think, hey, wow, I didn't know that, I want to learn more, you can just click on our new feature, Fact.il Library, where you can find additional information about Israel for you to be better informed.
IDF ethics!
How cool!
Some of the reporting missions on there were, of course, legitimate anti-Semitism, mainly right-wing anti-Jewish conspiracy theories, but the bulk of it was solely focused on propagating and perpetuating a Zionist agenda. I'll always report an anti-Semitic post on social media. There's nothing wrong with directing people to do the same. But let's have a look at some of the content that they were claiming was...
I think the creator goes by they, them pronouns as well. Their name is Dr. Kalen Conrad.
Anti-Semitism.
Am I being overly sensitive because I live in Iran, or is the coverage of the slaughter of protesters not doing justice to what's happening? What do you mean? Most Western outlets have been more than happy to report figures that they can't 100% confirm, whereas in the context of Gaza, they cast aspersion on figures even when there was far more evidence of exactly what was going on. That we had, like, you know, all of these death tolls that they continually claimed were unreliable.
Here's a bag on Redbubble that calls for the dissolution of Israel. It reads, "Make Israel Palestine again." The mission was to report it on redbubble.com, and act.il gave you a pretty detailed description on how to sign up on Redbubble, where exactly you need to go to click report, what to report it for, and then what to type in for the reasons for the report. You could also see all the other participants who had done this mission as well. Once you'd completed one of these missions, you were awarded points.
This is like, to be fair, this is a great way to find out all of the worst people you can meet plausibly. People who are doing Israel missions on the internet. This is the blacklist for people to invite to the function.
Which put you up on.
Fred Rose is not coming to the. Frederick Rose, excuse me, is not coming to the function. Paul Horsfield, not a chance. Billy MacArthur, Seamus Weibel, no. Jeff Perry, not a chance.
The leaderboard and unlocked badges. I did not earn any badges during my investigation except for joining the WhatsApp group so I could get notifications of posts they were trying to target in real time. So that's me, Lasagna Ravioli, and these are my badges. I'm a terrible Zionist, as it turns out. You can see some of these people are acting like this was their full-time job. Jeff Perry over here, he has all sorts of badges. Look at all this stuff that this guy is doing.
Successful mission, report tweet. Wow. Really fighting the cause of hoping that they also know, these people know that the biggest thing in their favor is that platforms listen to this crap and will actually take it down, and they aren't going to be taken down, you know, like genuinely horrifying things that Zionists are posting.
I wonder how many tweets documenting crimes and killings were taken down because of these people. I'm going to be real, I'm not sure how you would not feel sick playing this game. How detached do you have to be from the reality of this situation to make a game out of this? To award cute little badges like...
Sorry, I'm really sorry. I need to go pee again. We'll keep watching this when I come back. I'm really sorry. I'll be back really quickly. Many apologies. Oh, I'm back. Sorry. I don't know what is going on. Too much water, I think.
App Master, Superscribe, the stalwart socialized bronze badge. Now, as I said, I make a terrible Zionist, mostly because I'm the opposite of one, but especially because I use the app to do the opposite of what it was intended for. Namely, I would reply to the targeted post with something like, Hey, just a heads up, your post is being targeted by the Israel Action Group. I actually did get a response to some of those tweets from users of the app, presumably, and they found old tweets of mine and replied with the usual homophobic talking points. Turkeys and Xmas spring to mind. Shame on you for siding with homophobic jihadists. You're a disgrace to the LGBT community. And then there's like a chicken for KFC sign. They always pull this talking point with me, and they're so smug thinking they made an actual point, but they haven't. My solidarity with people not being bombed in a hospital is not dependent on whether or not some of the people in it might be homophobic. I don't care. There are homophobic people in every single hospital on the planet. There is no contradiction in my beliefs, as chickens for KFC would imply. There's a reason they need poorly constructed analogies to make their points. Because I guess
it's crazy as well that Netanyahu loved that. That Netanyahu was a really big fan of the thing of him going, when he said that on Nelk, and the Nelk boys like, ha 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 ha, when Netanyahu just goes, I've been thinking about chickens for KFC.
It's a meme with a human with a sign that said, oppressed against oppression, doesn't hit in the same way. These are clearly people that believe that the sole reason they fight for the expansion of human rights is that it might benefit them personally. But you should value human rights intrinsically for all people simply because all people deserve them, because all people deserve freedom, autonomy, and happiness. So when people like Bill Maher get on national television and make gleeful jokes about pro-Palestine artist Chapel Roan being thrown off a roof in Gaza for being gay, something there's no record of ever happening in Gaza, by the way, that doesn't actually point to our position being incoherent. It only demonstrates their depravity and maliciousness.
I mean, it also just comes from the position of just like trying to obfuscate around Palestine and to be like, this is something that they've played into for a very long time. And just like, you know, a lot of middle class gay people who feel quite comfortable, who have gay marriage and feel that everything's okay and don't want to advocate for the rest of, you know, the LGBTQ plus community. They know that there's a subsection that they can go for and they'll try and go for it.
And that's the disconnect for them, I guess. They really do believe that indiscriminate killing is perfectly acceptable if you happen to hate the people dying. And I guess people like that would find an app like Act.il extremely helpful to channel that hatred and malice. Because while looking through the app, I was
Apparently, actually, chickens for Colonel Sanders or chickens for KFC is the phrase chickens for Sanders has been used by various politicians, such as in 1978 by Canadian politician Steve W. Langdon, NDP candidate for Ottawa Centre Federal Electoral District. When comparing district voting to a chicken, and more recently in 2016 by US lawmaker Keith Ellison, Democrat, Minnesota, using the phrase in comparison to Muslims voting for Donald Trump. Of course he said that. Wait, now conservatives care about the gays? Oh yeah, conservatives are big on the gays. Trump was actually, to be fair, Trump was actually big on that. He was always like gays for Trump, right?
Startled by how organized and streamlined it was.
And thanks, Tara, for the $2. Thanks for helping and being here. It's great to see you all.
And how long it had been in operation. They put in a lot of money, time, and research.
No. Not all missiles are straight-seeking missiles. Only the ones made by the Democrats are straight-seeking missiles. They would never kill a gay person, the Democrats. The Republicans don't care about gay people. They'd blow them up.
Into making this as easy as possible to funnel mass reports, harassment, and misinformation to the masses on social media. Often the misinformation came in the form of memes.
How cool!
You could go to the propaganda page of the app and choose, for example, Gaza, and then subheading civilian casualty, and then open up to the meme section. Here's an example.
You know what? I actually think there are a ton of AI bots who are fed off this. I don't know if any of you post on Twitter regularly, but every now and again you get like these AI bots who just send you like a spammed out set of messages saying like, they'll send you literally just 4 memes without context, like calling you an idiot. And quite often, a lot of them, they are not relevant at all to what you're saying. And I wouldn't surprise me if a lot of accounts run off this, you know?
Hamas uses mosques as terrorist facilities. For Hamas, nothing is sacred. Of course, they're not concerned because this claim implies for Hamas, nothing is sacred. The purpose is to excuse Israel raiding or bombing mosques, because if it's not sacred to them, why should it be too sacred to bomb when it's filled with humans? The disconnect there is that these people don't understand that human life is also considered sacred, no matter what building they're in. Act.il had a canned talking point.
Also, a lot of this stuff are... A lot of this stuff is about building a mythos about Israel, that basically Israel is laboured in its process of killing Palestinians, that the Palestinians actually force the Israelis into killing them, that the Israelis don't want to do it, but even by the very way that the Palestinians fight and attack the poor Jewish people, it is them that causes their own suffering. It is them who are enjoying, who don't fight normally, and so the Israelis are belaboured into having to not fight normally themselves and mass killing civilians. It is about this mythos of the enjoying Palestinian terrorist.
Point for everything, which empowered every single person to easily spread it around with almost no knowledge of their own. Where does Hamas hide its weapons? Schools, hospitals, houses, mosques. Hamas uses residential areas as terror sites. Of course, they don't include any evidence, there's no source, there's no anything. It's just infographics, memes, the same memes
Exactly, the Golda Meir quote is the perfect example of it. It's not true, but it is so important to the Zionist mythos that they are like these moral warrior soldiers who all they want to do is fight a normal war, but the Palestinians won't let them do that even, and that thus the Palestinians need to be punished wherever they may be.
Seen under tweets that they said to report. It's so clear that it's astroturfing once you know how the app works and the content of it. The app itself, Act.il, was linked to one of Israel's propaganda arms, the Ministry of Strategic Affairs, which pays news organizations to publish articles linking Palestinian liberation to anti-Semitism. The Israeli cyber unit monitors Palestinian content and then asks the social media giants to remove it. How many of these were triggered by the Act.il mass reporting and harassment systems? I celebrated when Act.il was taken down, but not for a second did I believe it wouldn't return in another iteration. I did think, however, that they'd be a little bit better at hiding the rebranding when it did return. And it has. Act.il...
Yeah, I mean, also, just like... Zionist slop is like this whole set of networked messages that come out one by one from people who are just really repugnant. Like, Jewish Jess is someone who's like a big Zionist content creator. And she's just really racist. Like, can anyone tell me where the apartheid is? Like, this is it. Just filming herself at the Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Group of deodorant avoidant, forever fun employed, virtue signalling, blue-haired lefty lunatics are...
Like, listen to this. This is Israel's greatest warrior. By the way, this is a British Jewish person who moved to Israel to own the Pallies. Like, this person... I'm sorry, this person has no serious connection, has no justification to move to Palestine, and will sit there and go, I'm actually the indigenous person in this context. There's no apartheid, when she can move there, but a Palestinian cannot live there. It's unbelievable. Like, and no one watches this as well. Bookings. She has bookings. People giving her money. I also think, by the way, Buy Me a Coffee is a way that's being used by maybe, like, you know, people to give money, like, official people to give money to official people to give, like, money to pro-Israel content creators.
Act.il has been resurrected as a Rise app. I'll just say right off the bat that when you launch your new app, you might want to clear out the media folder on your repurposed Facebook page. Both because the Act.il branding is still there, but also because it's evidence that your app is not about uplifting Jewish voices, but mocking marginalized people and Palestinian voices. Rise app appears to be in the very early stages of release, but don't you worry.
Hashtag Jewish humor, voices, Jonah Platt. This Nate Buzz guy, by the way, this Nate Buzz guy blocked me on Instagram, on TikTok, because I made one video dunking on him, and he was like, he posted, so he posted, he was like, Israel's under attack, and I bet you didn't see that.
That's why I'm making this video.
This Nate Buzz guy is one of the worst people imaginable. He's an idiot. Oh my god. I mean, all of these people. Mayim fucking Bialik is on this app of how to harass Palestinians.
First thing you see when opening the app are crass memes mocking people standing against the genocide, usually extremely right-wing ones targeting anyone that presents as queer. With that hashtag Jewish humor.
down. Tell me what you want.
Oh, this is a skater skirt. Collar from a kink market. Some earrings from a Free Palestine market. Free Palestine.
This is like my Iranian Republic of Iran robe, you know, just to show.
Amazing, amazing.
So, gotta rock the keffiyeh and the H-band, you know, because it wants to say that I support.
Sorry, I'm just skipping because it has fucking music on. Excuse me.
You can also keep up with
This is genuinely like the level of Zionist humor is just like, ugh.
what some of the worst Zionists in Hollywood are doing, like Michael Rappaport, mostly now known for his unhinged social media rants more than any acting he's ever done.
You hear that shit, right? Can you hear that shit?
Wait, did I just see Hen Mazigue on that? Mate, I'm most obsessed with Hen Mazigue out of all of this. Oh. What is he talking about? Oh, Christ almighty.
Do you hear it or no? You hear the shit. Where's the fucking apartheid? The fucking prayers in Israel.
By the way, this guy's just a full-on Kahanist.
Apartheid state of Israel. I hear the fucking prayers. Where's the fucking apartheid?
Also, is this guy just drunk as shit?
Where is it? You hear that shit, right?
What is wrong with his eyes? Hold on.
You think that you're gonna you think
wait,
that you're gonna Koran, Zoran, whatever your name is. You think that you're gonna come in here with your smiley face? You think you're gonna become mayor of New York City on my watch? I guarantee you ain't gonna win. Zoran, Zofran, whatever the
What is wrong with his eyes? Why do his eyes look like that?
It is utterly ridiculous.
You can tell he's only ever read the word apartheid. That's not how you say it. Yeah, I mean, also, these people don't understand what apartheid is. It's literally just going, it's not that. There was this incredible video of some Iranian guy, and he was just like talking, and he was like the genocide, ethnic cleansing of the Iranian government against protesters. And it's just like, for years you have told us that we use just buzzwords for the sake of it. It's like the words you are using here are buzzwords. There is no capacity, there is no way in which you could accuse the Iranian government of committing genocide for killing protesters, because their goal was not to eliminate a specific ethnic or racial group at all, or national group. That was not what it was about. But thanks for the $5, Terratrove. Your name's also blue on the donation thing. Looks kind of cool.
There is no way. I'm going to bet money on it. There is no way this guy will become mayor.
There is no way. This guy.
Mayor of New York City.
If you want to find out info about hot topics like why Zionists think queer people are idiots, you can click right through and find a full page of straw man arguments to bolster that claim. The app itself serves in part to deny the existence of the genocide, to deny the deaths, the pain, and the suffering of Palestinians. This is all content that existed on the original app, and this one has placeholders for what they call activism and advocacy as well. But seeing as the app launched a month ago, as of my writing this, it's still largely empty. I had wrestled with whether or not to wait to report on the rebrand of Act.il until I had examples of their new harassment campaigns, but that only allows those people to get dogpiled without support.
We got a saying in Brooklyn. Hey, I'm walking here. Zoran will never be the mayor because I'm walking here.
It happens. So I'm talking about it now, in hopes that if it starts up again, more people are monitoring it. I'm sure some already are, but I don't know them, and I can't find any posts about it. I'm just one.
Well, I mean, Irene, I'm sad to hear that you ever watched a Michael Rappaport thing. I've never seen anything that he's in, and I can't imagine the immeasurable disappointment of watching something that he's in and enjoying it, and then having to realize that he is actually a real person. However, he is acting. He is acting in his videos. He's acting for the money from the Israeli government.
Extremely tired person with very limited bandwidth, and this app likely has significant financial backing from both.
We've seen the Rappaport snowball video multiple times.
Government and private sources, which allows for sustained, multi-layered campaigns that can quickly dominate online discourse and shape public perception. The danger of these campaigns lies in their ability to manipulate discourse and obscure documented human rights violations and violations of international law. By flooding information spaces with misleading context, selective framing, or outright fabrications, these operations can sometimes neutralize factual reporting from journalists, human rights organizations, and eyewitnesses on the ground. The campaigns often exploit legitimate concerns about anti-Semitism to deflect criticism of Israeli government policies, deliberately conflating opposition to specific state actions with bigotry against Jewish people, a tactic that restricts legitimate political debate and makes it difficult for unaware but well-intentioned observers to determine facts.
Whoa. Guys, Nina just...
Over the last 5 years, quite a few people have asked me to update my original video now that the app had been taken down, but it didn't make sense for me to do that until there was cause for concern, which I believe there now is. Attached to this video also is a fundraiser for the Palestine Children's Relief Fund. If you can donate to that as opposed to leaving a super chat or signing up to my Patreon, I'd much prefer that. The PCRF was founded in 1991 by concerned humanitarians in the USA, provides free medical care to thousands of injured and ill children yearly who lack local access to care within the local healthcare system. They sent over 2,000 affected children abroad for free medical care, sent thousands of international doctors and nurses to provide tens of thousands of children free medical care in local hospitals, and provided tens of thousands of children humanitarian aid and support they would not otherwise get. The PCRF's impact also includes establishing 2 pediatric cancer departments in Palestine and many more critical projects to sustainably bolster the region's healthcare system. Unlike ACT.IL, their foundation relies on actual grassroots efforts.
I have an ad blocker, it's just I'm on the...
Supported by a worldwide...
It's just I'm on the wrong thing.
...network of...
That was a very good video, and sorry, my frustration midway through that is... Some guy has sent me an email where he asked in the chat, first of all, where he was like, oh, I need to speak to you. He emailed me, I've emailed him back, and then he's emailed me hi after telling me that he urgently needs to talk to me. One has to wonder, what do you want to talk about? Just ask me the question. Whatever happened to UNRWA? UNRWA, unfortunately, doesn't exist anymore. But there's the link to the video. Yeah, Brad Pitt is in True Romance, just remembered. Brad Pitt's also a bit of a... Well, he's definitely a piece of shit. You know Hen Mazik, who claims to care about Palestine, is just posting nothing. He is posting nothing about the West Bank. He just posts about graffiti and says that it's really upsetting for Jewish people and doesn't talk about any of this stuff. He keeps sending me these high urgent... Like, I'm not even going to dignify this with a response. I'm not even dignifying this with a response. I'm not. I'm sorry, if you tell me, hey, I urgently need you, you come on stream, and then you proceed to just send me hi as the third email, there's a certain point at which you're like, bro, just say what you need. Like, I'm sorry for sounding annoyed. I'm grateful for when people, you know, want to contact me and want to support and stuff, but still, like, what the hell? Like, there's a certain point at which you've asked and you've told me you need something urgently. I'm on edge! I want to know! Yeah, but, I mean, it's like you grabbing my attention and then me responding saying, hi, I'm here, and then you going, hello! It's just like, you're gone. You're gone, bro. Right. Okay, so now we are going to move on to... something about the West Bank. We're going to do the West Bank. I wanted to check if there's any videos about really what's going on in the West Bank, because I don't just want to sit and read articles. It is a really interesting topic. It's very significant. Al Jazeera have a couple of videos.
Well, Israel's Security Cabinet has
Hold on, here we go.
approved a series of sweeping measures expanding its powers across the occupied West Bank.
Oh no, sorry, quickly, I am not getting over this. I am not getting over this. I am distinctly upset about this email. They came into chat and they told me that they needed to talk to me. They've sent me 2 emails. The first one saying, urgent, please reply ASAP. And I've replied ASAP. I replied 1 minute after the email was sent. The person then proceeded to wait an hour to respond, and
They include easing the sale of Palestinian land to Israeli settlers, facilitating illegal land grabs. They also include expanding the powers of Israeli authorities in areas under Palestinian control. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has called the Israeli decision as dangerous, illegal, and equal to de facto annexation. He has urged US President Donald Trump and the UN Security Council to intervene.
Jad Isaac is director of the Arij Institute, an organisation dealing with sustainable development. He joins us from Bethlehem. A very, very warm welcome to Al Jazeera. So Israel, as I mentioned there, has just authorised enforcement powers in essentially territory that was legally under Palestinian control for many decades. I mean, this was land established by the 1995 Oslo Accord, areas A and B, as they're called. I mean, given everything that we've just said, does that mean the Oslo Accords framework is now officially dead as of tonight?
Yes, I think that the Israeli decision to...
By the way, asking if the Oslo Accords are dead now, I feel like is an interesting thing, because very obviously it has been dead for an insanely long time. The Oslo Accords ended many years ago. It's not a real thing. Oh, God, please, just this email. And how dare you say that this is melodrama? This is upsetting. This is upsetting. He's deleting System 32 on my computer or whatever. It's just unbelievable.
The cabinet decision today obliterated any role for the Palestinian Authority or the PLO in the West Bank. It's not only limited to Area C, but to Area B and A. They are now going ahead with increasing the number of settlers in the Jordan Valley from 40,000 settlers to 100,000. They issued now military orders establishing what they call a velvet fence, separating the Palestinian communities in the Jordan.
I just cannot believe that there are so many people who are spending their time comparing and acting as if Palestinians are the ones who that Jewish people are the victims, that in the context of over the world, that what we need to be concerned about is spray paint, is stuff being, of course that's bad, like an anti-Semitic slogan being put out somewhere, but like comparing this to right now, ethnic cleansing and Israel genuinely moving to annex the West Bank
Valley from their land in order to become room for settlements. At the same time, they are building a big fence between the West Bank and Jordan, and they are now declaring themselves as sovereign to all the occupied East Jerusalem by becoming by doing land registration, which means that most of the land of the Palestinians and the Bethlehemites in East Jerusalem will become like a prey to the Israeli practices because there was no land registration since 1967.
Yeah, by the way, one of the most significant things is, obviously, as many of you will know, the Ibrahimi Mosque. So the Ibrahimi Mosque is it's not as holy as the Al-Aqsa Mosque, but the Ibrahimi Mosque in Hebron is certainly like a holy place within Islam. Anyway, for the first time, this is no longer under Palestinian administration. It's also referred to as the Cave of the Patriarchs now on Wikipedia. I don't know if it's ever called the Ibrahimi Mosque. It's this. And it's a very significant site for Palestinians, very significant site for Jewish people. It's no longer, the Ibrahimi Mosque is no longer under the control of the Hebron Municipal Authority, which is ruled over by the Palestinian, which is ruled over by the Palestinian Authority. Now it is controlled fully by the Israelis just before Ramadan.
And it's now Israel is appointing itself as the sovereign in that area. Not only that, but even the premises of UNRWA in East Jerusalem were totally destroyed. And the Abraham Mosque in Hebron, now its custody has been taken from the municipality of Hebron and handed to the settlers.
So So let's get this clear. I'm keen to draw a line under this because we're looking at, on the surface, an easing of regulations for settlers to buy land, also the restarting of this land acquisition committee. I mean, from the outside, these seem like dry, bureaucratic changes. But what you are saying appears to amount to the deliberate start of a total demographic takeover of the occupied West Bank.
Absolutely. It's very clear. There are now 140 pastoral outposts. There were Palestinian livestock and Palestinian farmers in these areas. Settlers are bringing their cattle and sheep, and sometimes they are stealing Palestinian sheep and goats and putting them under a fenced area and declaring this to be the property.
And yes, I think that the Israeli government is trying to provoke a response. I think Netanyahu really wants some kind of war so he can, so they don't have to call, so the election doesn't go on, basically, so that there's no election. I think that that's what matters to these people.
Of the settlers. It's totally, I think what they are doing now is they are delivering a very humiliating blow to the international community, to the UN, to...
I also think that, like, the fact that people still talk about the two-state solution is insane. And yeah, I did see them spraying the insecticide, like spraying chemicals over Lebanon and stuff. No surprise there. No surprise that they were doing that.
Even to the Trump plan. The Trump plan spoke about...
The reason that Israel loves to exacerbate things during Ramadan is really simple. It's because obviously it's like a really religious time. Obviously people are fasting, so, you know, that's already a difficult thing to undertake. But what they're trying to do is to provoke Palestinians into some kind of escalation so that they can then engage in a massive crackdown. They've set the precedent in Gaza. They've shown the international community won't be able to... They know that the international community will cower away and stop them doing anything. Not just Trump being more permissive, but also every single Western government person, from fucking Keir Starmer to all of them, who are just going to be like, oh yeah, I love this, I'm going to let this happen. You know, it's just insane. And they want to mass slaughter Palestinians in the West Bank. By the way, that's always been Smotrich's plan. You can look this up. It's called Smotrich's decisive plan. He believes Palestinians should either be kicked out, they should either be forced to abandon the Palestinian national identity and assimilate just as an Arab, and that's it, or they will be killed if they resist.
Annexation of the West Bank. But what they are doing is they are de facto annexing the West Bank.
As you say, de facto annexation of the West Bank. Why, then, is the international community still viewing this as a temporary occupation when it looks like the writing is on the wall right now?
Like, the thing is, and the complex thing about Palestinian resistance is Palestinian resistance has slowed Israeli project of erasure. It has, undeniably. Like, particularly the 36 to 39 Arab revolt and all of that time, the British often told the settlers to stop. Also, sorry, how is they're trying to provoke a response? Some lib shit. What are you talking about? What do you mean? They want a pretext to escalate to like even more military force and the permissive nature of just mass killings. They do, categorically. So I don't know what you mean, as in, like, what do you mean by that? How is that lib shit?
That's the question should not be directed to me. It should be directed to the international community, to the ICC, to the ICG, where, you know, the issue of settlements, which we brought to the attention of the ICC, because this is a war crime, still they have not made a decision regarding this issue. I think the challenge is now for the international community, which called for a conference for the two-state solution and the implementation under the auspices of France and Saudi Arabia. I think it's about time for the international community to stand against this racist Israeli government.
Jad Isaac, many thanks for joining us on Al Jazeera with such a stark analysis of what's...
Israel is invading anyway. They don't need a pretext. to act like this is about elections. I mean, a full-on war for Netanyahu and a mass ethnic cleansing in the West Bank and the destruction of alleged Hamas there is a boon to him. And I do think, granted, I don't think Netanyahu continued the war in Gaza solely to do with elections at all. I don't think that was the case. I don't think that was the case at all. However, I do think that they do want a pretext for an even more violent escalation, like the style of killings that they did in Gaza. They want to provoke a third or kind of fourth, if you consider like the sort of Jerusalem Intifada in 2018, an Intifada. But I think that they do want people to engage in more violent acts and means of resistance, because things like the Lion's Den haven't really been active in a while. Like, the Lion's Den haven't really been active since Israel went into the West Bank and demolished most of the Jenin refugee camp. They want to eliminate every single Palestinian refugee camp and destroy them. Like, you're right. They don't need pretext to annex the West Bank. They're doing it already, and I think pretending that is what it boils down to is foolish, but simultaneously they do want pretext to escalate. Like, you can look up Smotrich's decisive plan.
Approved sweeping measures that tighten.
If you were also, the exact measures are, hold on, I'll show you. So, wait, I'll show you a map of Oslo. Wait, actually, no, I'll use the Al Jazeera one. Basically, what Israel is now going to be able to do with these new measures is to demolish homes in Area A. By the way in which they're going to do this is truly unbelievable. They're claiming that because Palestinians threaten archaeological sites and because they build near them, that's the problem, and that's why they're going to be able to demolish more Palestinian homes. They're going to start demolishing more in Hebron. They're going to start turning it into a fully Judaized area, removing the Palestinian population. It's insane. I think also the truth is that the world doesn't want to take acts that, the world doesn't want to take serious acts on Palestine, because offering a free Palestine undermines the Western imperial, the Western Empire. It does. Having a free democratic Palestine and undermining the Israeli government, it's clear that the Israeli government over and over again says, no, you can't recognize Palestine, so we'd be going against our closest ally in the region, the one who we tell that we have to support for the sake of it. Because, let's be real here, the peace process is a joke. The peace process is literally just a means. The two-state solution is a means of offering nothing serious about Palestine. That's all it is. They don't want to do the two-state solution because... they only talk about the two-state solution because it is literally just a means to prevent anything serious happening on Palestine. Also, I've not got the Ynet News article. Fuck. News. Ynet News, Israeli News, had a good summary of everything they're doing. Where is it? Ynet News, Ynet West Bank. I've accidentally done the wrong thing. What's your take on Tucker? He's really ramping up the anti-Israel stuff. Everyone says he's a Fed. I mean, he was literally with Trump recently, so I find it really, really hard to believe that I find it really, really hard to believe this notion that, I find it really hard to believe this notion that Tucker Carlson is really, really against the Israeli settler colonial project if he still supports Trump and America. Yet simultaneously, I do have to admit, him bringing on the Palestinian Christian I can't remember who the exact guy is, and I've not watched the interview. That is at least like a thing that, most, even people in a lot of liberal mainstream media don't do. As an archaeologist, that's bullshit reasoning. Yep, it is bullshit. It's total bullshit. Here you go. So basically, it's now that they can demolish homes in Area A, something that they haven't had before. With Jordan not being antagonistic towards Israeli actions. The amount of ads you get on this website is insane. So Jordan is a collaborator with Israel. Like, it genuinely just is a collaborator with Israel, right? Jordan Jordan boils down to a country that is more interested in being in the Western sphere of influence than it is in changing anything. So they're not going to take any serious actions on Palestine. They cracked down on Palestinian militant resistance a long time ago because ultimately the Palestinian revolution asked questions of their own government. Like, it really does. Palestinians demanding what? Like, democratic liberationary politics are always going to threaten the government of Jordan. So they can support the Palestinian revolution to a certain point. But Jordan is an undemocratic, authoritarian state. So there's always going to be animosity to a genuine liberation movement. But also, we've seen collaboration that has never reached this point before. Although, there was a secret meeting between Golda Meir and King Hussein of Jordan. And they agreed during 1948 to not push further than East Jerusalem. But yeah, okay, so where's the stuff in here? Look at this. So now, the cabinet has approved lifting, so the decisions are considered legally complex to reverse and are expected to significantly expand the Jewish settlement across the West Bank. One of the key steps concerns land ownership. The cabinet approved lifting the long-standing confidentiality of West Bank land registries. The move will make records public, allowing potential buyers to identify landowners and approach them directly. Until now, land registration in the West Bank had been classified. Why do you think they're doing that? They're literally doing that so Israeli settlers can go and harass landowners and can make life specifically impossible for these said landowners and then harass them until they have to leave. It's just like, it's genuinely just unbelievable that this is something going on. And also, by the way, anyone who's like the Palestinians fucked up Oslo, who are the ones currently undermining every single principle of Oslo for the basic, with the explicit goal of just removing Palestinians from the land? It's just, oh my God. The cabinet also cancelled a law banning land sale to foreigners and abolished the requirement for a transaction permit. Until now, land sales to those defined as non-Arabs were prohibited, meaning Jews could purchase land only through local registered companies, rather than as private individuals. Under the new decisions, most barriers to land purchases have been removed. They're gonna also manipulate this. Please stop reading this slop article on the Times of Israel about the religious. Oh, I thought you were saying please stop reading this, and I was like, whilst I agree with you that Ynet is obviously a problematic institution, I will say their article is actually better than Al Jazeera about what's happening. Like, this is the most insane thing. So, again, another major decision concerns the Jewish settlement in Hebron. Under the new measures, planning and building authority for Jewish settlement, including at the Cave of the Patriarchs, will be transferred from the Hebron municipality, which is under the Palestinian Authority, to Israeli authorities. They are just annexing the West Bank, by the way. This is de facto annexation. The fact that you still hear politicians talking about the two-state solution right now is proof of why it's such a joke. In no way is the two-state solution in any way a real thing. They are literally doing this because they want to establish a Jewish supremacist state in all over all of historic Palestine. That's what this boils down to. There's no other two ways about it. And yes, for all of these royals, genuinely, what do they get from supporting Palestine? Sanctions, claimed to be a terrorist evil regime, and that threatens the only thing that the vast majority of these royals actually care about, which is maintaining their own power, ensuring that they stay in power, so they're not going to do anything about Palestine. Like, so many of these royals are just going to behave exactly the same way for as long as they can, because ultimately changing things and acting in a different way is a threat to the self-preservation of what they want to do. Like, here's the archaeological thing. Michelle, have a look at this. And also, I don't know if I said thank you for the donation. Thank you very much. Okay, citing damage to damage to heritage. Here you go. Here you go. The cabinet approved the establishment of a dedicated municipal administration to manage local affairs at the tomb, compound and the adjacent yeshiva, effectively annexing additional territory. It also authorized enforcement bodies to act against illegal Palestinian construction in Area A, citing damage to heritage and archaeological sites. Until now, enforcement against illegal Palestinian construction was limited to Area B and only specific locations. The new policy would allow Israel to expropriate land in Area A and demolish structures deemed to harm or sit atop heritage sites. A no-state solution.
It is utterly ridiculous.
Wow, mediocre 8 months of subscription. Happy 8 months. Next time you see a fake string playing video, don't hesitate to send it to me. I'll tell you everything that's wrong with about it. Thank you so much. What a kind offer. But no, I mean, no, do you mean as in like a two-state? How do you mean? As in like it's a one-state solution? It's Israel with domination, with Palestinians removed as any kind of alternative situation. I'd argue the two-state is the current situation. It was already two, but the other is not recognized as a state. No, I don't agree with you. I don't think there's any kind of Palestinian state. Like, yeah, this is all done around Ramadan as well. And I think that, by the way, to the person who said, oh, they want pretext, the timing of this and doing this around Ramadan is not a mistake. I hope you realize that, right? No, Area C is Israeli controlled. Area A is fully under Palestinian control. Area B is joint control, so Israelis control civil affairs and military affairs, and Palestinian Authority ostensibly control area, ostensibly control the civil things, whilst military is done by Israelis, and Area C is total Israeli control. So even this map is kind of wrong from Al Jazeera, because it's not really joint control. It's not just cruel though. Like, Ramadan is a flashpoint. Like, Ramadan has always been a flashpoint because Palestinians want to go to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, one of the holiest sites in Islam. Like, of course they do. They want to go and pray at their religious site, and they're not allowed to by Israel. Why can't the PA push back on this? Because the Palestinian Authority are entirely benevolent to Israel. Like, that's it. That's all this boils down to. The Palestinian Authority are benevolent to the state of Israel. They are an entity which want to do nothing but collaborate with Israel. They got rid of all of their weapons under something called the one gun. It's like one authority, one gun policy, and so they have a security force that largely just enforce what Israel wants to do. The security forces are also specifically trained. They're also specifically chosen from people who aren't affiliated with Hamas or any other political group like the PFLP. They are trained by the they're trained by CIA mercenaries in Jordan, and they're basically just not really politically active people, and so they look at it as a job where they can just make money, and that's it. The most holy site, to use the most holy site. So they haven't seized the Al-Aqsa Mosque. I mean, they're gonna seize it. Like, by the way, it's also why it's called Al-Aqsa Flood, in part because obviously Hamas are we can't discount that Hamas are a religious organization, they're a religiously inflected resistance organization. But yeah, it's an obvious choice to do. It's an obvious choice as to why they've done it.
Its grip on the occupied West Bank. The measures make it easier for Israeli settlers to illegally seize Palestinian land. They also significantly expand the powers of Israeli authorities in areas under Palestinian control. Palestinian President...
By the way, D9 bulldozers, which is, I assume, what these are. I think that's a D9. I don't know if that's a D9. D9 bulldozers are genuinely just a horrifying thing. Just sent out to be proofed against everything so you can just tear apart Palestinians' homes.
Mahmoud Abbas has condemned the move as dangerous and illegal. He's warning it amounts to de facto annexation. And he says US President Donald Trump and the UN Security Council should intervene. OK, here's how Israel has, over the years, expanded its control in the occupied territories. Now, before the British mandate in Palestine began, more than a century ago, Jews made up 8% of the population. By 1947, that had increased to 33%, mainly through Jews immigrating from Europe. On May the 14th, 1948, the British mandate ended and the State of Israel was created. Armed Zionist forces captured...
Which guy did I debate? Are you talking about my dear friend Lonerbox?
78% of historic Palestine and expelled 750,000 Palestinians from their homes. After the 1967 Arab-Israeli War, Israel occupied more of historic Palestine and annexed East Jerusalem. And then came the Oslo Accords of the mid-1990s.
What's the update on Saudi-UAE relations? Saudi-UAE relations are genuinely in the toilet. The UAE's overreached and it remains to be seen. Although I've seen things about Saudi being a bit cash-strapped, so it remains to be seen. But the Oslo Accords were also the full capitulation of the Palestinian Authority, ultimately. Like, the Oslo Accords were... Look at that, right? How do you accept that? How do you say... How do you put any blame on the Palestinians at this point? They wanted... The Palestinian... the PLO were willing to accept 22% of their historic homeland, right? Oh, the one that said the bulldozers didn't destroy buildings. Oh, God, that guy is an idiot. That guy was an idiot, yeah. What happened to Lonerbox? I don't know. I think he still streams, I assume. I just think he's not been up to much recently. Yeah. But Palestinians were willing to accept 22%, and that wasn't good enough for Israel. They had to annex more and more.
The occupied West Bank was divided into 3 areas, granting Palestinians limited power to fully govern Area A and partially govern Area B. Mohammed Daleh is a Jerusalem-based human rights lawyer who's been practicing in the Israeli and Palestinian legal systems since 1993. He's joining us now from occupied East Jerusalem. So thank you very much indeed for being with us. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas is describing this as de facto annexation. In your understanding, what is going to be, in real terms, the impact of Palestinian communities?
I mean, this is going to be devastating. All the decisions that have been taken by the Israeli cabinet, which we haven't seen them because they are secret decisions.
Yeah, I mean, anti-Hassan snark is just an interesting world to live in. Like, as you guys know, look, I've talked about Ethan Klein, and at points I will talk about Ethan Klein, but I'm not, willing to talk about every single thing that Ethan Klein does, because it's incredibly boring. Like, why is that just what you should do with your entire life, And these people just want to talk about Hassan and Hassan being bad.
For security reasons, we just know their content from what has been published by the ministers. They basically are actually annexing the West Bank, the occupied West Bank. They're allowing now Israeli citizens, normal Israeli citizens, to go and purchase lands in the West Bank and basically start what I call private settlement initiatives anywhere. While in the past, up until now, since 1967, any Israeli citizen who wanted to even buy land in the West Bank from Palestinians had to go through a lengthy process of establishing, first of all, a company within the so-called civil administration, which is run by the military commander of the West Bank. And the Israeli citizen also needed a permit from the agent responsible for this within the civil administration, so that no private settlements can be basically established by Israelis anywhere in any point in the West Bank. Now, they want to change all of this process that has been in place for almost 60 years now, and they want to allow Israeli citizens to go into the so-called real estate market in the West Bank and try to buy or purchase land from Palestinians. And when we know that a lot of these deals are based on forged documents, or documents related to Palestinians who are outside of their homeland, either because they were not allowed to come back or they were expelled in 1967 or because their IDs were confiscated. So we're going to see a whole industry now of taking over Palestinian lands in different places anywhere in the West Bank. And then after that is being taken over with the different methods, including forged documents, as we have proven.
By the way, I remember reading this statistic that like at one point in the 80s or late 70s, the Israeli state controller found like inconsistencies with over 70% of the Israeli annexations of Palestinian land in the West Bank. Like, all of it is based on bullshit. And it's so despicable and disgusting. And I don't know what's wrong. I mean, I think there was a point at which, during that debate where it's kind of like, why is your obsession with, like, on Palestine, why is your obsession with condemning Palestinians and talking down to protesters and offering justifications for Israel? Like, it's disgusting and it's wrong and it's immoral and it's unjust. And anyone who's spent their time talking about the problems of the pro-Palestine movement are insane. It's genuinely unbelievable. Sure, criticize people like Candace Owens. Candace Owens is genuinely an anti-Semite. Criticize these people who LARP as pro-Palestine, but do it for no other reason than literally just to get money and spread misinformation and stuff. I hate that as much as I hate, people who do that who are Zionists. I think it's annoying, I think it's unproductive, and I think it's unhelpful. But spending your time condemning Hassan and obsessing over him shocking his dog, like, people who still bang on about that is insane. Do you honestly think that everyone around Hassan, people who actually look after his dog, lied about that? Like, I can't believe it. I'm talking about Lonabox, I'm talking about Ethan Klein, I'm talking about all these people who LARP as pro-Palestine, but in reality are staunch defenders of Israel. It's pathetic, it's odious. And I think obsessing about Hassan and making just slop about Hassan is just disgusting and boring shit. And it's why I could title every stream, Ethan Klein has done this and Ethan Klein has done that.
In many cases in the past, this would mean that settlements would be established almost anywhere. Now, even settlers can buy from that point of view in Area A or Area B or Area C, on the hills, in the fields, within Palestinian municipalities, within Palestinian neighborhoods, and this is going really to change the reality on the ground. But that's not the only change. They are now also, taking authorities from the PA, or the limited authorities that the PA had. Based on the Oslo agreements, which you have referred to in your report, which are limited to Area A and Area B, even those authorities, this jurisdiction, which is not really the jurisdiction that a sovereign power usually has, because the Palestinian Authority was never treated by Israel as a sovereign power and was never defined as a state. Even those limited powers, now they are being taken from the Palestinian Authority, giving...
The craziest thing to me is that when it comes to like people who talk about Palestine, they're literally they say over and over and over again that the way forward when it comes to Palestine is dialogue between the two groups, is finding a solution that involves Israelis and Palestinians coming to some kind of agreement. The Palestinian Authority would agree to anything. They would literally agree to anything when it comes to being offered a state in the West Bank and powering Gaza and all of this stuff. But when it comes to fucking Israel, they don't want it.
Back to the Israeli military commander, the ability to demolish houses and constructions even within Area A and B.
I want to pick up on a point. Forgive me for interrupting you, but I do want to pick up on a point for clarification from you, if you don't mind, with regard to the reference to it is now possible for them to be able to buy Palestinian land. We're constantly referring to Palestinian land. Does this also apply to property itself? For example, if there were apartment buildings or homes that were within a Palestinian community, would they then be available to Israelis to buy?
Yeah, now it will be much easier. I mean, it was available in the past, but through a very bureaucratic, lengthy, complicated process with oversight of the Israeli government and the Israeli military commander, who was able basically to decide whether to give the permit for the specific deal, especially if the deal was in an area where there was no Israeli interest, I mean, on the level of the government, to establish a new settlement, or we're establishing a new settlement in a certain Palestinian town or city, was contradicting the policies of the government at the time.
So let me ask you this, because I want to get an idea of the kind of impact on the communities that are, the Palestinian communities that are already existing there. In the event that an Israeli settler is, under these new rules, able to, say, buy an apartment within a block or a community that is surrounded by Palestinians, what does that mean in terms of the Palestinian community itself? What kind of impact does that have? How are the Palestinians expected to change? How will life change for them if that happens?
I mean, other than the fact that this deal is going.
This makes me feel so depressed, like it's horrific slow erasure. Like my heart can't handle it. Yeah, I mean it's genocide. It's genocide. It's what it is. It's genocide of the Palestinian people. It is an attempt to destroy the alternative society proposed by Palestinians and only offering them an existence inside Israel as servile people who have totally abandoned any notion of a Palestinian state. That's what Israel wants. It's what it's trying to do. And unfortunately, it's what it may be able to do. But I don't know. It's someone asked, how do we stop this? It's really hard because I can't, I've got to be frank, our governments are not going to do this. I think continuing to talk about Palestine, to continue researching, to continue learning about it, to continue protesting where possible. I mean, I can't encourage much more than that because obviously the way in which we live, and I think also the governments under which we live.
Going to be now much easier when the settler moves into such a building or such a neighborhood. The whole reality of the Palestinian in that neighborhood will change, as we have seen that, for example, in Hebron a lot. Because of the so-called
Julie, I'm gonna delete that because that is a little bit Fed posty. I know you're not, but I just for the sake of ensuring that I just deleted that.
Security reasons, they will have soldiers surrounding that building. We'll have patrols of military cars coming and going all the time. We'll have barriers. Lots of neighborhoods in the.
It's also, by the way, it's why so much of the Zionist project needs to be understood through the fact that it's a project that much of the violence is not like spectacularly. That much of the violence is not spectacularly violent. That it's not always just like a mass killing of Palestinians. That it's not always that. That much more of it is just like benign, that much more of it is like not benign, but that is like everyday attempts to ethnically cleanse Palestinians. And the genocide doesn't always look like the mass killing in Gaza. It looks like all of the attempts that Israel makes to annex and erase Palestinian land and make life impossible there.
In the city of Hebron, for example, have become de facto jail for Palestinians, where no people can come in and out other than the registered residents of those houses or those apartments.
No. I'm advocating for that message to be undeleted if that was possible. Disrespecting Lenin is far worse. My dog couldn't write state and revolution, but Lenin could probably chase after a tennis ball. That should not have been deleted. No. I like that message. Sorry, I found that funny.
Which makes you isolated from your own community, and eventually they will try to pressure you to leave. And that's exactly the policy.
Like one of the ways in which Israel commits genocide against Palestinian people is by encouraging them to leave and basically expelling them outside of Palestine and being a Palestinian. Like it's through those policies of family reunification and such. It's much more benign, than like killing someone. I know it's a repugnant policy and something that no one should go through, but it's much more benign than just being being like mass murdered.
Even purchasing land in the West Bank, they will use these methods on a large scale now, because how hard it is economically and otherwise now in the West Bank. A lot of Palestinians are actually outside of the West Bank and cannot return to the West Bank because of Israeli policies.
Mohammed Ali, we're going to have to leave it there for the moment, but I'm very grateful to you for coming on Al Jazeera and explaining what is clearly a very complex situation to us. Thank you very much indeed.
What is the latest on Palestine action? Well, so the Palestine actionists weren't convicted. recently, the Filton Six, that's not all of the Palestine actionists, but they weren't convicted. So they basically effectively won their case. However, they want to force a retrial. Thank you for the 100 Norwegian kroner, Elephant Fish. Thanks for supporting and doing this kind of journalist possible. Also, Tara, I did see what you sent and I had it up. I was going to talk about it now. So it is real. The only thing I will say is it doesn't necessarily look like it's... Be careful what you think is a giant wallet in someone's trousers. What? Is that kind of reference to it being smuggled? Chris, aren't you using the term genocide when we're talking about ethnic cleansing? Some people say that the term genocide is used, ethnic cleansing, is used to undermine and detract from ethnic cleansing. Yet, I think that in some ways we should talk about it in the context of genocide, because this is not a project of expelling Palestinians. Like, I think ethnic cleansing, even then it's hard to describe as an apt term for that situation. But when you're trying to remove people to another part so you can gain control over a specific part of an area, so that basically, you know, you need it for some reason or another, I think maybe ethnic cleansing is a more apt term. But in the context of Palestine, I believe what they're trying to do is eliminate the Palestinian people. And by expelling them from their land, by ethnically cleansing them from the West Bank, they're trying to destroy them as a coherent national entity. It's like in the context of Gaza. Israel's plan was never to kill 2 million Palestinians. That's not how Israel wanted to do the genocide in Gaza. It was to make Gaza unlivable for generations to come so Palestinians could no longer live there. Trump enunciated this publicly. He said multiple times, hey, I think I want to make life isn't livable for Palestinians. Also, quickly, do any of you want me to... Actually, no, you know what? I'll leave it. I'll cover the Emaru slop tomorrow. So... I'm going to say thank you all for coming. Thank you all for watching, supporting, and being here. I'm incredibly grateful for all of you. I hope that you have a lovely rest of the day. I'll be back on tomorrow. I'll be back streaming. Yeah, thank you all for supporting, watching, and being here. Honestly, yeah, I hope that you have a lovely rest of the day. I'm just going to run because I got to call Isaac and plan some No Politic Here stuff. But yeah, thank you.